Okay, testing 1, 2. Let's see what we got here. Okay, testing. Looks like we are good to go. Welcome everyone today. For all of those of you who may or may not be on a replay, Thursday, November 7th. Thursday, November 7th. We are about foot deep in snow in the 20s. Very cold, very snowy. Um, in my universe, I called this snowed in because I'm not that anxious to get out in it. So we are snowed in, have a very warm coffee, and good morning to you all. We're watching the internet, aren't we? I've been watching all morning, various things going around and checking things out, keeping my eye on this case, keeping an eye on the shenanigans in Delphi. There was a circus in Delphi overnight. We had a drunk YouTuber vomiting and passing out and all this shit at the courthouse. We had dramas with the line. We had cheating, stealing, shenanigans, screaming in the line, and it's just been a total circus in memory of Abby and Libby out there outside the courthouse, thanks to Judge Gull, who doesn't give a shit about transparency for this case, about the way that it looks, about the circus she's created outside of that courthouse, or about the circus she's allowed inside of the courthouse and the potential obstructing justice that she's facilitated. But that's neither here nor there. We're here to discuss some things about what's going down today, and we will later be having a special guest who I'm very glad to have on. He's very good, and he's going to enlighten you all and be someone good to talk with. So that's where we are. So welcome. And if you're on the replay or after this live is done and you're watching, please go ahead and leave a comment down below. Hit the like, support the channel. We have all these pathways, super chats, and buy me a coffee, and cash apps, and all the various things. Do all you can to spread the good word around here, okay? So let me say hello to everyone in the chat before we get into our topic for the day, and we'll be going. So first here was Say What. So thank you, Say What. We're here early in Court of Public Opinion. Thanks for being here. $100 million federal civil rights lawsuit in the presence of the jury and the media just a few moments after the verdict is read. Boom. That's about, I should leave that up for a while. That's about my feeling exactly. I'm surprised that you come in here repeating that, because that's where I am. I endorse this statement. Sure do. Can I star it? There we go. Nancy DiNapoli, welcome. New York here. Welcome, New York. All right. And Bonnie. Welcome, Bonnie. All right. Welcome, Kathy, Indiana here. Welcome, Kathy. All right. Aunt No Angle. Good to see you back. I missed you yesterday. I wish you wouldn't have ran off. Maybe you come on at the end of the show tonight or today. I wasn't finished talking with you, so please hang around. Untamable. Hey, y'all. I just heard a short recording of Bob saying Ellie went into looking for Elvis Fields, and he's running around the woods. Sounds about right. Travesty of a trial upsets my digestive system. Well, I agree that it's apt to do that. All right, what up, Commentator Root? Boom. What's up, Prof and friends? What's up? All right. Untamable, would you email it to me? That'd be amazing to look into. All right, David Rogers. What's up, Mr. Rogers? All the way Court of Public Opinion. All right, good morning to you. All right. Holly Bricks, welcome. Who was drunk? You'll be finding out. We'll do an entire live stream about it. Don't worry, footage and everything. RC99, welcome. Robin Topham, welcome. Good to see you. That would be real justice. Yes, indeed. All right. 3:30 here in Australia. Well, how is life in Australia? All right, and how's Michigan? All right, welcome in, Kayla. What's up, Kayla? Sweet dude Chibi back in the house. Well, you got your roller skates? You got the roller skates? Yeah, it was. Yeah, there you go. It was Marv. Okay, thanks for the welcome, Prof. I have a job interview coming up this afternoon, so if not today, maybe tomorrow. I would love to know more about what you know. Oh, we just love your voice, so I'd like to hear you. Ding dong, what up? All right, so here we are. Here we are. Welcome to everyone. So, as some of you may or may not know, uh, we should be in the process of closing arguments today. Closing arguments. And due to that, I figured it'd be a perfect opportunity to go back and do a little review, to go back and look at the opening statements, take note, take an inventory, so to speak, of opening statements, then see where we have landed. Okay, see who fulfilled or lived up to their promises. Were promises made and promises kept? Let's go back and look at those opening statements and see what was brought to the table after those opening statements were made, and sort of maybe assume what might be brought to the table today for closing arguments. And we will also try to keep our eye on the Twitter and see that if there's any updates. So we'll keep our eye on that too. And so that's where we are. And welcome, Woman Doing. And welcome, Kay. What's up? And Mr. Kramer, welcome. Thank you for coming in. Interesting. Yes. Ashes to Ashes, welcome back in. Watching, listening while working, justice for those precious little girls' lives, yes. But also justice for Richard Allen, because it doesn't look like they proved a damn thing. That's the thing. You take someone to court for double murder of two little kids. Shouldn't you have a rock solid case so that you're not only attaining justice, but you're not ruining the life of someone else and endangering their lives? Because as we know, there's now a hit. According to Anthony Greeno, there is a hit on the life of Mr. Richard Allen, whether he is indicted or acquitted. And first of all, I'd like to know how you know, Anthony. Secondly, I'd like you to know that this puts blood on everyone's hands should anything happen to that man. Okay. All right, welcome, BM. Acquittal coming within 2 hours of deliberation on set. Very optimistic of you. Now, you know I'm pretty optimistic, but you're even more optimistic. So glad to have that optimism in the chat. All right, so that's where we are, y'all. There we are. So maybe we could get rolling. If I get enough coffee in me, we'll be fully fueled up and ready to go. All right, so we are in Colorado getting a lot of snow right now. Somewhat of a blizzardy snowstorm past 36 hours or so. All right, so what did they prove? Cops and prosecutors in Delphi are paid way too much. And judges. All right, so there we are. So look, let's go ahead and get into it. No reason to delay. All right, this will be fun. Right, where are we at here? Oh man, opening statements. What a joke. What a joke. Pretty sure you can't read that, but there's a zoom button on your phone if you're on your phone. Sunny and warm in Canada. That's about right. All right, so Nicholas McClelland's 15-minute opening statement. This will be entertaining. All right, good morning, Britt Marie in Sweden. Good to see you. And good morning, Bonnie. Good to see you. All right, good morning, Sandy D. Boom. Thanks for coming in. We're looking at the opening statements. This is what we're going to get started with. All right. So Nicholas McClelland's opening statement. Let's get back to starting off. So his very brief opening statement. Let's take an inventory of what occurred, what promises were made, and were those promises kept. That'll be fun activity here. A little criticism, a little laughter. All right, so Nick wanted to play a video, but it didn't work. So after 5 minutes, he scrapped the idea. All right, good one, good one. Largely a recap of the mini opening. All right. Told the jury a couple days ago that the case is about a bullet, bridge guy, and brutal murder of 2 girls. Now the jury gets to hear the rest of the story. Okay, let's back that one up. Let's back that one up. A bullet. We'll be getting into that later, but as you know, the bullet, it's a complete joke. It's a complete joke. And that's all you need to know about the bullet. Bridge guy, a fabrication. It's a fabrication. And you've also heard testimony to that effect. And if you don't believe it or you don't understand it, then you need to speak with someone who actually knows and some people who are actually in the courtroom. So let's back that up and reiterate. The bridge guy is completely useless. It's also very much an assumption that whoever was in that video had anything to do with the murders. There's no proof that the bridge guy had anything to do with the murders. There's no proof that the voice recorded was belonging to the ant-sized image in the video that was recorded. And there's also no proof that the entire thing wasn't staged. How do you know that these killers did not have a victim phone, set up that recording, and frame or stage that there was a bridge guy abduction scenario? So there's so many assumptions that bridge guy is a nothing, okay? And brutal murder of 2 girls. Well, yes, that's what you actually do have. That's all you have. Brutal murder of 2 girls. Now the jury gets to hear the rest of the story. Well, that's a promise made, promise not kept. Promise not kept whatsoever. If we heard the rest of the story, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be sitting here now talking about your mini opening statement or your opening statement. The world has yet to hear the rest of the story, okay? Trying to pin it on Richard Allen, though, with the weak case that you had, wow, this was a false promise. It was not in good faith to make that promise. All right, so February 13 was an unseasonably warm day, and the girls were off of school. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Was it unseasonably warm? Let me take a little detour here, because you know how we do things. We do deep dives. So let's do this. I'm Googling my website that I use to study climate data. All right, so let's compare. I'm going to hit the compare button. We're going to do some averages. All right, let's look at February. Okay, February temperatures. Okay. Here we go. Delphi. So let's take a look at Delphi, February 17. Let's do February. Low of 39. February 14th, it was a low 34, high of 50. All right. Low of 34, high of 50. Let's do this. February of 2018. Let's do it. Low of 21, high of 34. 2019. Low of 39, high of 50. How about 2020? Low of 30, high of 32. Let's do February 2021. All right. Low of 18, high of 21. It was cold in 2021. February 2022. All right. Low of 12, high of 23. All right. And let's do February 2023. Low of 34, high of 55. How about of 2024? Low of 28, high of 48. So you know what it's looking like to me? It's looking like it was a perfectly average winter day in February, not unseasonably warm, not 20 degrees higher. Just seems like an average winter day, maybe 2 degrees higher than your average. What's up, Windchill? Thank you for the super chat. The missing details hidden in Delphi. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Windchill. Let me, thank you so much. Let's see. The time of death sometime between 12:30 on the 13th, 2:30 on the 13th, and 11 on the 14th. It's all a joke. Okay, let's see if I can get you guys in the chat. You guys went crazy when I was distracted here. Bridge guy is a constructed boogeyman. All right. Hey, Rhonda. Thank you for coming in. All right, let's see. Hey, Babs. All right, I'm catching up with you guys. Annette, no mention of stomach contents. Hey, Angela, you guys all came in together. David Rogers, in my opinion, this entire gig was put in motion February 10th or 11th and methodically planned. Seems like it. I do believe we're pretty much on the same page. I'm especially focused in on the 12th, but you know, hope you will see Sweden sometime. Okay, you guys are beautiful. Thank you so much. Hey, what's up, Adrian? Thanks for coming in. What's up, True Justice? Thanks for coming in. Everyone involved has shown such a willing incompetence. No, it's called corruption. Okay, how much can they get away with? All right, I heard that Elvis Fields is on the run, being chased by a riding moor. Why wasn't a subpoena set to ISP employee who contaminated the DNA found on, yeah, whatever. Yep, a sleepover. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm focused on the 12th to the 13th. Hey, what's up, beautiful Michelle Oakes? Go isn't acting alone. She's following orders from above to protect the reputation of the state entities such as IDOC regarding odorness. She's protecting the white supremacists, pagan freaks. Okay. What's up, Ding Dong? All you guys, thanks for doing that. Hey, what's up, Rebecca? You made it in. So back to my reading, my critique of this, these opening statements. So, according to Becky Patty and Nicholas McClellan, it was an unseasonably warm day, meaning approximately 2 degrees higher than, I mean, I just read every year from 2017 to now. I just read you all the temps from every year from 2017 to now. So did you hear any of those temperatures be extremely much lower than the temps, the first ones I read from February 7th of 2017? So I don't think it was unseasonably warm. I think it was just about average, maybe 2 degrees warmer. Okay. The girls asked Kelsey to go to the bridge, but she had to work. Well, that's if they were alive. I don't necessarily believe that story because that's a family's story. We don't take the family's stories for fact anymore. Okay, so did the girls ask to go to the trail? I don't know. Kelsey drove the girls to the trail, allegedly, but remember, it's not seen on video. We don't see those girls in the backseat of that car. We can't identify the driver, and we cannot make out the license plate on the Harvest Store video. So again, that's taking the family's word for it that they dropped the girls off at the trails. Libby was in the front seat and Abby was in the back seat, allegedly, because we have zero proof of it. Libby took a selfie in the car on the way to the trails. The photo was shown to the jury. Yes, but we don't know what day that photo was taken. Just because it's uploaded to Snapchat does not mean it was just taken. Okay. We don't believe anything anymore. We don't believe you. We're not taking anyone's word for it. Okay. Let's see, next point. Kelsey dropped them off at the Mears parking lot. How do you know? There's no proof of that. We're not taking her word for it. Just because she says it doesn't mean I believe it. Abby didn't have a phone, but Libby had a phone, allegedly. Although I hear word, the word on the street is Abby did have a phone that belonged to the Patty family, and that phone is at play in this situation. Libby's phone was set up so that Abby's fingerprint could unlock the phone. Yes. In other words, both fingers of both girls could unlock that phone and get into any of those accounts. So it calls into question both of the victims' social media accounts, everything on them and how much they were tampered with, et cetera, et cetera. In addition, we know that Kelsey had passwords and the phone had connected or was connected to iCloud or iCloud enabled and location Find My iPhone enabled. All right. Libby crossed the bridge first, looked back, and saw a man following Abby, so Libby decided to record. That's the state's narrative. There's no proof of that. We don't take the bridge guy video as proof of the life of the two victims. The man told them down the hill, and the girls complied, and the video cut off. Let's talk about that. A man said down the hill on this video that was planted on the phone. Doesn't mean that bridge guy said that to them, because actually attendees of the court proceedings have told us that bridge guy's mouth doesn't move when the words are spoken on the recording. The search for the girls was suspended approximately 2 a.m. and resumed at 6 a.m. No, it was suspended around midnight and resumed at 6 a.m. And at 2 a.m. came the horror screams. The horror screams that law enforcement chose not to respond to. Okay, we're getting there with the gaslight. All right, now. Abby was wearing, oh no, here we go, I missed one. Libby was found nude, covered in blood, throat cut in several places. Blood on the ground and on a nearby tree. Yes, 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 because you can't fake that. So yes, you got one thing right. All right. All right, what else we got? Abby was wearing her own underwear and shoes, but no socks, and the bottom of her feet were dirty. The bottoms of her feet were dirty. And allegedly, Libby's shirt and jeans. We don't necessarily believe that one either. We're not going to take anyone's words whose clothes there were whose clothes they were on Abby. Abby was dressed in clothes that were not her own. That's what we know. All right. They never showed the Harvest Store video, just some supposed still shots. And Mullen had to testify as to details about those videos. And that's how we extracted the data that the video is not clear enough to see anything but the general shape and color of the vehicle. You cannot identify the driver. You cannot identify passengers. You cannot identify a license plate. Just the general shape and color of the vehicle. All right. The rest of the girls' clothes were found in Deer Creek. True. But for one shoe and Libby's phone, which were found under Abby. True. Okay. Like I said, they cannot fake those elements, so those elements are going to be true. There was an unspent .40 caliber Winchester bullet between the two girls. Yes, and it's very questionable because we don't know about any proper collection of that piece of evidence. It's a big question mark on that piece of evidence. Witnesses began to come forward. 3 girls on the trail who took a photo on bench east of Freedom Bridge. 3 girls ran into an unfriendly man who was walking with a purpose. The state says the man is bridge guy, and I agree. I agree that the man those girls filmed or witnessed, I'm sorry, the man that those witnesses observed dressed in all black, who was huge, muscular, and in his 20s, I do believe that was bridge guy, but clearly that was not Richard Allen. He's too big, and he's dressed in all black. All black. Okay. The down the hill voice was the person closer to whoever was holding the camera. We don't know if it was the girls holding the camera. And know from that distance in the video, whoever said down the hill was already upon the girls. Yes. But we don't know if the girls were there or if it was someone holding their phone pretending to be them for the camera. All right. If I was on the jury, found out later all the info was left out of what they were told, I would be furious. Yes, Yeah, what if they ruin the rest of this guy's life and then they find out about everything else? Oh, they're gonna be pissed. When you forget to log out of your sister's iCloud, her funeral pictures end up on her account. Wonder why would she be logged into her sister's account? Just hours away. We had very mild winters for many years. Usually February is when we get the worst. Yeah, but I just read to you all the climate data from 2017 to 2024. There's no question about what I just read to you. Seems like all of the opening statements are hearsay. Yes, that's what I'm hitting at. Okay. All right. Good, awesome. We're doing good now. We're doing good. I'm keeping up with you guys. Yeah, but Emily, I'm going to straighten you out because you have to understand that Bridge Guy video is a fabrication. It's been highly edited to the point of being created. The colors have been altered. It's very likely that if that was Bridge Guy that was filmed, it was all black. You remember the photos that were first released? He was in all black. I have it. I have them. The very first photos or images released, Bridge Guy was in pretty much all black and he was thinner. Then they modified it again and Bridge Guy got fatter and the jacket turned blue. Okay. So that's not admitting you're in the same clothes as the person all of these witnesses witnessed, who was definitely in all black and definitely huge and muscular. It's not the same person. Okay. Okay, Sweet Dude Shibby. Patty said on Web Sleuths, no, find my iPhone. Yeah, that was a lie. That was one of the family's lies that has been exposed during this trial. Remember, there's so many lies that have been exposed during this trial. Trust me, when this is all over, we're going to do an entire show just on the lies that have been exposed. That February was warmer than usual, but the days they're saying this went down were not. No, I just read to you the temperatures for those days. It was average February temperatures. Okay. All right. We're going to be nice to Emily or Emil. I can't tell the name. Where is she? Emily 53. We're going to be nice to you, but we're not going to be an idiot. We're going to help you. All right, so let's move on. Next page. Remember, this is opening statement. These are supposed to be factual statements that he's going to prove, and he didn't prove a thing from this list yet. That's the point of me doing this. All right, now Betsy Blair saw a man on a platform of the bridge who is also Bridge Guy. Okay, I can go with that. I can go with that. Sarah Carbo saw a man walking on the side of the road looking like he had just slaughtered a pig. This is also Bridge Guy. False. False. False, false, false. False. Sarah Carbo did not see Bridge Guy. Sarah Carbo saw somebody, allegedly, possibly, wearing a tan sweater or hoodie, and he was muddy from the knees down. She changed the story to bloody in 2019 for some reason. Okay. Years passed and they reviewed an old report of DNR officer who interviewed Rick in 2017. Yes, but the true story about that is that magically a tip appeared in a box, in a drawer, in a desk, magically. And magically, Kathy Schenck decided it was important even though it said cleared, and walked it over to Tony Liggett and handed it off. Okay? Then Tony Liggett decided, instead of preserving that narrative, which assumably or presumably would have Doolin's handwritten notes documenting that interaction on the back, I suppose he just disposed of it and went and figured out how to get at Allen, if you're believing the story. But what I think actually happened is they were looking for someone with the SIG 40 caliber. They figured out Allen owned one. They went and they found him in the Orion system, and then figured out how they were going to target him to set him up, since he owned a 40 caliber SIG, and they had that they could use. Prof, I mentioned that in a different chat last night and got gaslit and threatened for saying such a thing about BG. How dare you say that about Libby's bravery? That's a slap in Libby's face. That's called troll farm. That's called troll farm. Just put in the chat, where were you? I guarantee you I know where you were. It was one of the troll farm channels. Remember, the Patty family controls the troll farm. All right. I always thought that the state of undressing of Libby and the multi-layered clothes on Abby was not a coincidence. I think it's quite possible that Libby's undressing was very personal and for humiliation. Yeah. Looked like he slaughtered a pig. Why a pig, too? Why choose a pig? Why would they choose a pig? What, I mean, don't you slaughter other things? Like, how much does Skank get paid for her volunteer work? Maybe she was promised the tip money. I mean, the reward money. Remember, I believe KMS is Kathy Shank. I believe KMS, who wrote a letter demanding the reward money, also wrote to Doolin demanding the reward money. I believe that's Kathy Shank. Maybe she was promised the reward money for her part in this conspiracy. That's what I think. She's mighty bold. It's almost like blackmail to be holding it over the judge's head at this point in time. All right. Now let's see. Let's get back to this. The point of this is critiquing. Okay. Rick said he arrived at the trails at 1:30 and left at 3:30. No, he said he arrived at noon and left at 1:30. Okay. He said he arrived at noon. He said he left at 1:30. Now, the fact that Doolin chose not to record this interaction, although he had a recorder with him, and although he typically recorded every interaction, he chose, allegedly, not to record Richard Allen. Also, they magically lost the handwritten notes that he says he took during this interaction on the back of the tip sheet. So we've got zero evidence, okay, of anything that was said. All right. Oh, well, yeah, you got to email me, Tameable. Okay. It appeared like the lost professor Jeffrey Turco and his formal documents appeared once an official recovered from amnesia. Troll Farm is running with the phone. Jack was water in the phone jack last night. Oh, that's the gaslight. That's the hijack. What they always do, they gaslight the pertinent points that are bad for them. And of course, anyone unplugging and plugging something into that phone after the time Richard Allen's already out of there, according to their narrative, blows up the timeline. So, of course, that's something that it's essential that they have some gaslight or hijack in the narrative. Just like Kelsey's hair wrapped around Abby's dead finger. They have to have the gaslight that the hair pulled out from the root was in the sleeve and magically wrapped around the finger. Okay, but let me tell you something. My hair is light colored, and fine, and when one strand of my hair is wrapped in my fingers, it's almost impossible to see it. You notice I wear glasses. I have to really look close to see that hair because it's the color of it, the thinness of it. I think that they literally missed. They cleaned those bodies very well. They leaving forensics very well, but I literally think that they missed that hair on the hand because it's hard to see. All right. As if you give 2 or 3 statements and not say bloody even one time. But then suddenly the third time you say bloody 16 times and you don't say muddy once. Come on, bro. Okay, Emily, we're putting you timeout. All right. No, Emily's in timeout now. She can't handle it. Sometimes you have to listen. Okay. The overwhelming majority of Indiana seems steeped in crimes against children. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Okay. Let's see. We're putting your timeout for 5 minutes, Emily. Okay. Well, we're not going to say Rick Allen has a reason to lie and all of that shit. No, law enforcement has a reason to lie, Emily. So you have 5 minutes timeout, okay? Kelsey's hair. Excuse me. All right, guys. So let's get back to it. Remember, we're still going through McClelland's 15-minute opening statement. Yeah, sit in the corner and think about what you've done. We'll be back in 4 minutes now, Emily. Just relax with the calling people murderers. Okay. First place they check on murder victims, especially those of family orientation, is the hands, nails, and fingers for struggling signs, possible defense DNA from scratching under the nails, shit like that. And I'm telling you, I promise you, a single strand of hair in around the finger is very difficult to see. It almost camouflages with the color of the skin. You get it? I honestly think that when they were staging this scene, etc., they missed that hair around the finger. They missed it because it's hard to see. All right. Back to this. Liggett thought if they found 3 girls, then he would have to be bridge guy. That's a difficult note to interpret. Liggett thought if they found the 3 girls, then he would have to be bridge guy. They called Richard Allen to interview him again in 2022, and he said he was wearing a blue or black Carhartt jacket and jeans. Okay, gotcha. Well, we know he owned a blue Carhartt jacket, and we know that there was 0 forensics on that jacket. Not one drop of blood, not one hair, no fibers, nothing matched Richard Allen. And that's just a fact. All right. They searched his home and found a .40 caliber gun. Yeah, that's probably the reason he was identified and targeted, because they knew he owned that gun. All they would have had to do is go to every FFL in the county and question about who all owned .40 caliber SIGs. Okay. They tested the bullet and it came from Richard Allen's gun. False. 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 That's already been proven false. They tested the bullet and there was no way they could match it to Richard Allen's gun unless they fired it. And you know that's not how it works. And if you don't know that's not how it works, you probably should go learn some things about guns and bullet forensics before you start speaking about it. Who said it was a tan jacket? Sarah Carbo said it was a tan hoodie or sweater. I love your professor. Richard Allen is innocent. Please stop smacking your lips. Jackie, look, I'm going to delete your shit because I don't need criticism. You try to get up here and speak close into a mic and be perfect, okay? So here's what I'll do with you. I'll remove that smart-ass comment. Okay, don't come and fuck with my morning. All right. Sorry, every time a hair is wrapped around my finger, it pinches like a rubber band. A little bit. All right, so where were we? They interviewed Richard Allen again. He had no explanation how his bullet got to the scene. Of course, if he had no idea, he had no idea. Why does that have to be implicating him in a double homicide? If you asked him how his bullet got to the scene, he genuinely had no idea, and he responded that he had no idea. Then why does that make him a kid killer? While incarcerated, he told investigators what they already knew. He killed Abby and Libby. Oh, you left something out, dickhead. You left out the fact that he was undergoing psychosis, according to 2 doctors now. He was being forcibly medicated with Haldol on top of Prozac. He was eating his own feces, banging his head against the wall. He was also saying things that made absolutely no sense when it came to the murders of Abby and Libby. And you also left out that you had him in solitary on suicide watch for 13 months. The UN says that's not a good idea. All right. He gave details. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. These were not from an interrogation. They were volunteered and spontaneous while undergoing a psychotic episode and being forcibly medicated. I'm not even going to press on that. The killer hid in plain sight for 5 years. No, he's hidden in plain sight for 7.5 years because he and the others are still out there. Hello. He was going to have his way with them and was interrupted. Oh, possibly whoever killed these girls did want to sexually assault them, and they possibly did. Yes. Forced them across the stream and killed them. Absolutely no proof of that. No proof at all whatsoever was presented that they went across that stream or that Richard Allen was the one that forced them across the stream. So that's false. And no proof whatsoever was presented that he killed them. Remember, no forensics of him at the scene, no forensics of them at his scene, meaning his house, his car, his clothes, his weapons, no digital forensics. And oddly enough, true. Cody Patty was a neighbor of Richard Allen at one point. Makes you wonder. Money and Bloody was a perp. Why would they take the road? I find it a road I was trying to escape. I'd find a road if I was trying to escape. What? Was solitary 13 weeks, 13 months, 13 months. Many trolls today. What would be Kelsey's motive? I'm not ready to go there. Kelsey has lied. Kelsey has lied. Now, what's her motive for lying? You tell me. Did Prof just say hello? Yes. DOC policy says it's not a good idea. 30 days bad, but 396 days is okay for Richard Allen, a pretrial detainee. Hello, beautiful Adrian. Okay. Now, I think we can evaluate from this collection of notes about McClelland's opening statement. Promises made, promises not kept at all. I will be very interested in getting some word about the closing arguments, especially McClelland's gaslight. Okay. So that covers part one. All right. Part one. Now we're going to get to part two. What's up, everyone? Please come in. If you're lurking, come on into the chat. It's nice in the chat. Hit the like, support the channel, do the nice things. All right. If you've ever witnessed someone go through a psychotic breakdown, you just don't understand how devastating mental illness truly is. I feel sick knowing that RA is completely innocent and thinking the jury will find him guilty either because of Gall not letting a majority of the evidence or they have a juror on the payroll. No, don't worry. They're not going to find him guilty. It would require a unanimous vote. There's no way those intelligent people are all going to unanimously believe the bullshit evidence that was presented. I mean, we just went over opening okay, so we just went through those opening statements. None of those promises were kept. They're all far stretches, they're reaches. He was reaching. And obviously they didn't present that to the jury as there's way too much reasonable doubt. Could be that the perp went out back way near the mailboxes. Comment was getaway car someone else was driving. Yeah, I agree with all that. I agree with the back way scenario. Years ago, I lost my son tragically. I'm sorry. Okay. I had a psychotic episode completely. I said, I killed my mom and cooked her in the oven. That completely didn't happen. Yes, thank you. You see, when you have a psychotic episode, your reality that you're experiencing is totally disjunct from our reality. Okay? If you've ever experienced a psychotic episode, it's a totally different reality you're experiencing. And people, it's like a waking nightmare. Imagine a nightmare which is real to you, okay, but you're sleeping normally. Well, imagine if you were having a waking nightmare. That's what a psychotic episode is like. Boys on the Tracks is very similar to Delphi, in my opinion. Big cover up with Ellie and the prosecutor all involved, the good old boys, the whole 9 yards. Exactly. That's what I think we're dealing with here, MLO. All right, much love. Let's go. Andy Baldwin's opening statement. Okay. Richard Allen is completely innocent. Well, I don't know about that, but that's the claim. Okay, so that's point one. There will be reasonable doubt from the evidence and lack of evidence. Check. Check. Okay. Can we all confirm? Let's do this step by step. Let's confirm. Because we want to see how this stacks up against McClelland's gaslight opening statement. Okay, there will be reasonable doubt from evidence and lack of evidence. Check. Okay. The defense wants the truth to come out in court for the jury and families. Check. The truth is that the investigation was messed up from the beginning and up to as recently as the last few days. Check. Well, thank you, Jessica. Thank you. Hand in the hair so important. Overlooked while staging. Yes, I agree. The phone's controlled by who? Yeah, that's a good question. Please hit the like. On point here. You are right. All right. What's next? In the beginning, evidence was lost. Check. Key witness interviews are gone forever, and they didn't even write down the names of people they interviewed. Check. There's no way to recreate some of the early investigative steps that law enforcement took. Check. Months later, they lost more interviews from a period of time from April 29 through June 2nd. Check. In the middle of investigation, they got into a turf war with the FBI and kicked them out. Check. Doug Carter acknowledged that. As of 2 days ago, law enforcement is scrambling because there is a hair in Abby's hand. Check. It was wrapped around her fingers and had a root. Check. DNA was extracted belonging to Kelsey German. Check. The analyst testified the hair might be from a relative of Libby. It's not Libby's, it's not Abby's, it is female. They still need to complete testing. They will test mom, grandma, sister, blah, blah, blah. And we now know that it matches Kelsey's. Check. In 7 years, they never turned in Becky or Kelsey's DNA to see if it matches. Neither did they turn in any of the family's phone extractions. Check. All right. We don't have the, okay, truth can come out on a phone. That's part of the defense's theme. Check. Forensic data on phones doesn't lie or cheat. When you find out what's on Libby's phone, the state's case is going to fall apart. Check. All right, this shit's getting rich yet. There were a couple of guys from Indiana State Police who were in charge of phone dumps and data. They were all ill-equipped to understand it. Check, that was proven because we now know that this quote-unquote phone expert didn't know shit about iPhones, and we were dealing with an iPhone. An iPhone. He didn't know about iPhones. What kind of expert is that? Why didn't he reach out to an expert on iPhones? It's important because this phone data is accurate and reliable and is going to be incredibly important. He asked the jury to hold the state to their theory of the case because he contends that they're going to have to change it as the evidence comes out. Check. All right. The state's theory is that Abby and Libby were dead by 4 p.m. at the latest on February 13, 2017. Check. Where's the lie in this? They don't move. The phone doesn't move. They are killed and abandoned and left in a place. And that the phone was under Abby's body the whole time from 3:30 to 4 until they were discovered around noon the following day. Well, that's the theory of the state. That's the state's theory. Okay. State says Richard Allen arrived and parked at CPS around 1:30. State's theory. The route to the state claims, the route the state claims he took is odd. There's no reason to take that route. He drove in an abnormal way. Well, who's to judge what route you take to wherever you're going? Who can judge what route I take to my local grocery store? Can't I drive the way that I want? I always go differently. You know why? For mental stimulation and variety. Sometimes I want to go straight there. Sometimes I take the scenic route. Sometimes I come back at the scenic route. Sometimes I come back the straight route. I always switch up the way that I go to and from the grocery store. Now, where are we? According to the state, the car parked there. The car is parked there until sometimes after 4 when Richard Allen left. Once Richard Allen left, he didn't come back to the crime scene and he didn't take Libby's phone with him. Check. Well, odd, isn't it? Because now we know that someone handled that phone. someone handled that phone. Someone handled that phone, and then geofencing shows that someone got out of there. Then geofencing shows that someone came back. Not geofencing. The phone data shows that someone came back after dark. Okay. Richard was never on the trail at the same time as Abby and Libby. Check. We now know that Betsy Blair saw Kelsey and Bree. Or is it someone else? Is it? Wait. Let me double check. Like, I have too much on my mind here. Let's see. I want to double check that and not fill your head with more BS. Okay. No, it was Bree and Rayleigh. Okay. We now know that Betsy Blair saw Bree Wilbur and Rayleigh Voorhees. She did not see Liv and Abby. She saw Bree and Rayleigh. Okay. Which makes one wonder, did anyone, not just Richard Allen, did anyone see Abby and Libby on the trails that day? No. If Betsy Blair saw Bree and Rayleigh, then that means she did not see Abby and Libby. What's up, Big JD? Money pumped into the town for the cover-up. Good way to put it. Good way to put it. The cover-up was funded by the money pumping into town, and now it's funded by the ballpark. Hello. WTF would a one-horse town squabble with the FBI and kick them out? You would think they would be relieved that they could hand it over and not be blamed and not under pressure, not under any stress, and they could utilize all the resources and the experts at the FBI and the numbers. Remember something to the effect of Doug Carter saying there were 100 FBI agents in town after the murders? So you're going to turn around 100 feds? Okay, let's get back to it. You also remember Doug Carter saying he was going to have to hire 100 new employees to go back over this case. Did he ever do that? Has he done that yet? No, he hasn't. He hasn't done that yet. Will that ever be done? Wait, the family never had their phones extracted? No. Kelsey's? No. The last person to see the girls alive? No. They took everyone's word for it. They did not have her phone extracted. No, there's no verification of the timeline. There's no verification of who was where, when, what, how. Deep behind. I'm so behind. I deep dived this in 2020. Haven't followed since 2 weeks ago, trying to catch up. Well, it's bad, J Cash. It's bad. Yeah, it was Doug Carter who removed them. Doug Carter testified personally that it was his decision to ask the FBI to remove themselves and to give back all of the evidence. Give it all back. Give it all back. Carter fed us a bunch of lies. It sounds like he fed us a bunch of bullshit. Who needs the FBI when Sherlock Mullen is hard at work? Sherlock Holmes. What's up, Holmes? All right. Can anybody explain why Richard Allen said he saw 3 girls, but there were actually 4? Because he saw the classmates. I think he saw the classmates, Herrera, Collier, and Mata. They were there earlier. That's who he saw. Can't wait till I ask him myself. Who were the girls you saw? Were they Hispanic or were they white? All right. Let's get back to this. Witnesses describe a guy, bridge guy, as 5'11", which does not fit Richard's 5'4" description. Check. Richard arrived to the trails around noon or 12:30, and he was gone from the trails by 1:30. Well, who knows? Because I'm not taking either side's word for that one. But I know this. It's up to the state to prove, right? The state has not proved when he was there. Betsy Blair drove by CPS lot around 2:15. She saw one vehicle, Mercury Comet, Mercury Comet looking vehicle that looked the same as the one her dad had in the 60s. Richard drove a 2014 Ford Focus. Camera at Harvest Store shows a car at 1:49 p.m. We don't know it's Kelsey's because remember, we can't see the driver, we can't see the passengers, and we can't see the license plate. The girls were on the trail right after Betsy Blair. They basically followed Betsy Blair down that trail to the bridge. No, that was Rayleigh and Bree Wilbur. About 2:05, the girls were on the bridge. No, they weren't. They were never on the bridge, in my opinion. Close to halfway across the bridge, Libby was ahead. She turned around and took a picture of Abby at 2:07. No, you can't see that it's Abby. Okay, just a moment. All right. All right. At 2:13, the abduction happens at the end of the bridge and is caught on video. The video is not panoramic, so you won't see much. You can't see the water or the end of the bridge or anything else. It's a bullshit video, and we'll all be learning about it. More and more. Wait till those jurors come out and start telling us about it, okay? All right. Sherlock Mullen. You hear a voice telling the girls down the hill, but the man on the video, his mouth doesn't move. Remember, this is opening statement. Therefore, the defense contends that there is more than one person. Boom. I agree. I have a PI friend who was sent down to Carroll County to help investigate Delphi and Flora. Like the FBI, he was sent away. He sent on his way early on. When you refused help like that, you put your shit under a microscope. Yep. They deserve every bit of criticism they receive. At the end of the bridge, you have a choice to go right or left. They went left down a steep incline. We don't know and can't show which way they went down for sure, but either way, they would have landed on an access road that goes under the bridge, if they were there at all. The access road leads all the way to the home of Brad Weber. It's possible there were other people or a vehicle making use of this access driveway. True, true, true. Evidence suggests the girls may have gotten into a vehicle down there on that access road. There is not strong evidence about what happened. Check. So one possibility, and we've always thought that, going all the way back to Kagan Klein, we always thought it's the possibility that if those girls were there on that bridge that day, that there could have been a vehicle down there waiting and somebody attempted to abduct them and put them into that vehicle, but they ran. That was the very first theory when we were believing that the girls went across the creek. But things have changed. We don't really necessarily believe that anymore. How many times were the two girls seen? Once. There's a whole lot of people who witnessed a 5'4" middle-aged man. No, they've witnessed a 5'11" or 5'10" or 5'11" man. Where did I miss all these people who saw Abby and Libby? Only one person claims to have seen the girls is Betsy Blair, and she's not sure she saw the girls. We believe she saw Rayleigh and Bree Wilbur. Okay. Paul Holes offered his assistance to law enforcement and was turned away. Of course, they don't want any help because they have to cover up. They can't have prying eyes in this. Thank you, Kim Young. Thank you for your critical thinking, noble take on this case. Thank you very much for that, Kim. All right, where were we? Where were we? Let's see. Data from Libby's phone shows that she was connected to the tower and getting messages and text until 5:44, at which point the phone no longer connected. Well, check it out. 5:44, the phone no longer connects. 5:45, someone plugs in a headphone jack or something. 5:47, someone leaves the geofencing area. Is all that making sense? 5:44, phone loses signal or turns off or dies. 5:45, something's plugged into the jack. 5:47 or 9, one of the phones that was in the middle of the geofencing at the crime scene is now left the geofencing perimeter. Is the 5'11" guy the man in all black? Yes. According to, who was it? Betsy and Rayleigh. It's my opinion. Okay, so 5:44 p.m., back to that. 5:44 p.m., phone doesn't connect to the tower. It appears to have died or something. Headphone jack activates 1 minute later. Phone leaves the geofencing area 4 minutes later. Is it sounding like something happened at that exact point? Then magically, again, there's a lot of magic in this case. How many times have I said magically? At 4:33 a.m., Libby's phone suddenly comes back on and reconnects and receives a flood of text messages, etc. Now, the defense theory is that's when the phone comes back into the area. But the state's theory is that the phone never left its spot that it was laid at the crime scene at 2:32 p.m. on the 13th. What is the significance of the headphone jack being plugged in? It means someone had to have that phone in their hands at 5:44 or 5:45 p.m. Well, who is that? Because the state says that at 3:58 p.m., Richard Allen's getting it out of there. He's gone by 4 p.m. He's out. So who's there an hour and 45 minutes later messing with the dead victim's phone if the victims are dead? You see, that's where it all falls apart. Can they tell whose phone it is? Absolutely. Absolutely. But you know what's infuriating? The judge says you don't get to know, and neither does the jury. They know who the phones belong to, and they excluded it from the trial, which means we don't get to know, and the jurors don't get to know. How right do you think that is? Brad Weber did have a 40 caliber 6R P226. Yes. He gave a different account in his original interview than his original. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Yes. It's all true. All true. Will we locals keep investigating this murder and all the others? Local won't. Yes, we will. This is not ending with Richard Allen. Goodbye, Kim. Have a great day. Have to run. Come check out the rest on the replay. God bless you. How awful the phone was supposedly under Abby's body. Yeah, how awful. Horrible. Horrible. Poor things. No one gets to know. Sure, the jury would have liked to know who were the three phones malingering around the crime scene. All right. After 4 p.m., when Richard Allen left, Data will show human hands handled Libby's phone. It registered human hands handling. Oh, that was proven. Check. You see how they're checking off every box, every promise made, promise kept. The last ping of her phone was 5:44. They continued to try to ping the phone every 15 minutes until 4:33 a.m., at which time, boom. How do you explain it? Still not explained by the state. Around 10 p.m., investigator Sherlock Mullen contacts Mitch Walker at ISP, who said the phone wasn't in working order or was out of the service area. The phone was found in working order. Therefore, it had to be out of the service area, according to the defense. At 4:33, 15 texts come through to Libby's phone. The search party will establish that the girls were not where they were found. In other words, the search party will establish that when they searched, they didn't find the bodies because bodies weren't there. Fire Chief Sterrett was part of the search. His area to search was across the creek from the area where the bodies were found. There was a grid search. Chief Sterrett will testify that he saw flashlights from people searching across the creek from him, which is the general area where the bodies were found. The girls were found in a flat area, which is a natural area for people to walk if they were searching in the dark. Again, who was there with the flashlights? Why did they not find the bodies? Why? Because the bodies were not there. Where were the girls taken? Where were they taken? No one else is having problems with audio, are you? Isn't it sounding just fine? Okay, come on, coffee. All right, so back to the reading. The girls' clothes were found in the creek. However, many people were searching the creek prior to that time and found no clothes. Even Fire Chief Sterrett said that he looked with a flashlight at that part of the creek. There were no clothes in it at the time, which tells you the clothes were part of the staging. When they brought the girls and laid them there, they went and they threw the clothes where the clothes were found. All right. Oh, man. Holman will testify that from where the girls were found, you could hear voices on the bridge. Bull. 4 people would have been walking on the bridge at the time of the abduction murder, yet they heard nothing. 4 people heard no screams, even though we know there were horror screams at 2 a.m. 4 people heard no talking, even though there were many, many people out there. 4 people heard no rustling like footsteps. The bullet, which has 0 credibility in the alleged forensics that were performed, and the coerced confessions mean nothing when the phone data says otherwise. Bezo Jones, name the name. Who's the girlfriend? Name the name. Can't just say something like that and not give the name. Whose car? Do you mean the girlfriend of you mean Taylor Hornady? Is that what you're talking about? Taylor Hornady's Johnny Messer's girlfriend, Taylor Hornady. That's who you're talking about. I see. Okay, you can't say JM in this community because you confuse people. Just say Johnny Messer's girlfriend, Taylor Harnedy. All right. Okay. Yeah, you confuse people with JM. All right. Whoever brought them back there knew when everyone was gone. Okay, thanks for coming in so you can be blocked permanently. Thanks. Appreciate that. All right. Okay, let's get back to this. The if we rely on the hard data, none of this other stuff matters. You're going to see videos of Richard Allen in his cell where he was watched 24 hours a day. You're going to see the conditions he was in. Check. Richard Allen went into prison fragile to begin with, and the videos will be upsetting. Check. Well, we know from people who were in the courtroom that the jury was very upset by the videos. All right. All right. Oh, man. Within 2 weeks of arriving to prison, Richard Allen told his uncle not to send money and not to hire a lawyer. Maybe I'll just admit to it all so you don't have to suffer. 6 months later, the confessions start. He says he shot the girls, but they were not shot. Check. Defense experts will say that he has all the ingredients for these to be false confessions. Check. Andrew Baldwin addresses the magic bullet in the ground. There was no photo or video of the bullet being recovered or retrieved, which is standard operating procedure. There's only one photo of the bullet in place, then the bullet in the lab. The bullet is a nothing burger. Law enforcement in this area commonly used .40 caliber ammunition. So did lots of others. Sig Sauer is one of the most common brands of handgun. It's possible the police dropped a bullet and nobody asked. Check. It's possible to test law enforcement guns against the bullet found, but no one did that either. Check. Brad Weber had a .40 caliber SIG in his vehicle. This was tested and not excluded as the source of the bullet. Check. Dr. Warren will be critical of the bullet testing. There were markings on the magic bullet, not from being shot, but only from being cycled through the gun. There were sufficient markings on the bullet to do analysis. What they did for the testing is they took a pristine bullet and cycled it through Richard Allen's gun. That process produced markings that were not sufficient for comparison. Then they fired the bullet to try to get more markings. Once they fired the bullet, they were then able to compare the markings on the shell casing to the unfired bullet in the ground. Based on that, that's why they're saying they can match it to Richard Allen's firearm. Problem is, it's not comparing apples to apples. It's comparing apples to oranges. Our own eyeballs can look at the pictures of the two bullets and see they don't match. Lots of markings are consistent between guns because guns are manufactured in bulk by the same machines in the same factories. Therefore, the magic bullet is of no value. Check. Melissa Oberg, the analyst who did the testing but is no longer at ISP, will testify she has done over 1,100 or 1,300 comparisons and she has never been wrong. But other people she supervised has been wrong. Pass the buck much? Okay. Betsy Blair arrives around 1:49, which is right before Kelsey drops the girls off. Betsy Blair describes the bridge guy as early 20s, maybe 30, with fluffy brown hair. She sees him on the bridge 50 feet away. Richard Allen has worn his hair short since 1989. Something most notable about Richard is that he's so small or short. Betsy Blair said nothing about the man being short. You get what I'm saying here? I'll be nice. It's BS. It's BS, okay? It's all BS. All right, so let's get back to it. Just a moment. All right. Betsy Blair saw Bridge Guy before the murder, allegedly. Sarah Carbo saw Bridge Guy after the murder. Bull, BS. That person was dressed entirely different, completely different than the person Betsy Blair saw. Sarah Carbo's story has been inconsistent, consistently inconsistent, and she was combative. She had a bad attitude, and she seemed to have some agenda for doing what she was doing. Not a good witness. The jury didn't like her. The jury won't believe her. In 2017, when she first spoke to police, she told them the guy she saw wore a tan sweater and was muddy. Okay. When Sarah Carbo spoke to police in 2019, after the Bridge Guy video was released, she changes her description to this man. Okay. That he was wearing a blue jacket and was muddy and bloody, like he slaughtered a pig. No DNA of Richard Allen at the crime scene. Check. No social media connection between the girls to Richard Allen. Check. No digital connection to the girls of Richard Allen. Check. No connection to the scene. Check. No forensic data connecting Richard Allen to anything. Check. No forensic data connecting the girls to Richard Allen. Check. No blue Carhartt jacket matching forensic to any of the girls or any of the crime scene. Check. It's taken the state 7 years to figure out whose hair is on her hand. Kelsey's. A forensic pathologist is going to say it took two different blades, one serrated, one non-serrated. Check. In Richard Allen's confessions, he stated he killed the girls with a box cutter. Defense theory is that this is supportive of evidence that more than one person was involved. Multiple knives. Multiple knives. Guess what else? Multiple descriptions of the perpetrator. Okay, one dressed like Bridge Guy, one in all black. Multiple potential individuals. Remember, the Bridge Guy being separate from the voice saying down the hill. Voice not matching, lips not moving on the man in the video, etc. When you see the crime scene, you'll understand that it's highly unlikely one person could have done it. Check. When you see the crime scene, the last thing you would think is that Richard Allen did that by himself and for any reason. Okay. The crime scene was a very bizarre scene. There were sticks on the girls formed into rune-like constructions. When law enforcement began the investigation, they originally thought more than one person was involved, more than one perpetrator in this crime. And it would not be feasible for one person to commit this crime. Check, check, check. And that is it. Oh, look, we got another piece of shit in the chat. Here's what I thought of, Florence. I thought of blocking you permanently once I document your account. Let me go ahead and do a little screenshot. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Good. Thanks. So now you're out of here. We'll never see you again. All right. So who else we got here? Liberty Landfill, German Liberty, Liberty German, Freedom Bridge, Lady Liberty, Statue of Liberty, Freya, Frigg, Freedom, Cedar Point, Abracadabra, Tubra, Brebra, Sigismund von Bibra, Burkana, Hagal, Liar, Proud Serpent. Would we leave off? Abigail Williams and the Salem Witch Trials. Okay. All right. And let's talk about that. Derek was dealing. He was a major meth dealer. Okay. He dealt to Becky's sister. He dealt to Anna Williams. He dealt to Abby's mother. Yes. Yes. Derek dealt to Abby's mother. He dealt to Becky's sister, among others. Okay. Let's get the fucking shit straight here. Check. Now keep sending the trolls. All right, so y'all. That covers the opening statements. Okay, so let's do a quick check here. We're gonna do a little Twitter bomb. Let's do a Twitter exploration and see if we have any update whatsoever. All right, so we got closing arguments are done. Oh, let's see what we got here. So we got any update? See if we got any closing argument update. We may have to do this at a later time. Let's see what I can get. Defense closing arguments. Defense completed its closing argument at 12:10 p.m. Eastern. So that was just since we've been on, okay? Rozzy tells the jury they've been there for almost a month and have seen 17 days of evidence. The defense trusts that what you've heard over the last several weeks, there's 4 themes. Broken timeline. Oh, let me pull this down. Okay. All right, yeah, so we're reading an update on the closing arguments. So that was opening statement. So now you're going to hear some bullet points from the closing arguments that just happened while we've been speaking. Broken timeline. Rozzy says 4 main themes. Broken timeline. Bumble ballistics. False confessions. Digital forensics. So let's do that again. Timeline. Ballistics. False confessions. Digital forensics. Rozzy tells the jury the state has presented a theme of what they don't want you to hear. It's what we had to tell you, he says. We had to do their job. Razi expands on that by saying that the state refused to have height analysis done on Bridge Guy. He says 4 hours of video interviews from 2017 were lost. No, not 4 hours, hours. He tells the jury the state had to look at a detail about a Ford Focus after doing a BMW search in the middle of the trial after a juror asked about it. He said the juror asked if it was the only 2016 black Ford Focus registered in 2017. Razi described a witness testimony saying that Brad Heath said he saw an unusual man that day. He said the Betsy Blair testimony didn't tell the whole story. Razi said, I have to take a breath before I talk about here, referring to Sarah Carbo. He says Carbo conflated muddy with bloody. Tells the jury they may discount a witness calling it credible dubiosity. He says the jury can then discredit Carbo. Oh yeah, it's beautiful. Razi says the prosecution did not tell them about David McCain, Shelby Hicks, or Cheyenne Mill because it doesn't fit their narrative. Razi tells the jury that the prosecution didn't include Allen's timeline regarding how he got to the bridge. Razi tells the jury the prosecution didn't include Allen's timeline regarding how he got to the bridge, and Allen nods his head in agreement. Razi suggests to the jury that they should use two pieces of evidence to exercise common sense. Two interviews from October 13th and 26th of 2022. He says that Brad Weber's gun could not be excluded as the one that cycled the cartridge found at the scene. Razi says Weber had sticks in his garage, and the state didn't mention that. He brings up Weber's account changed on February 13th. Razi talks about calls on April 3rd, 2023 that the state didn't bring up at all. Razi says that the state did not offer up information on the FBI leaving the case. He said sticks laid on the girls' bodies were not collected. Razi brings up Westville videos of Allen. He says Allen was in solitary and without human interaction. He says the state only wants you to hear a few words. He says the magic bullet is the majority of the state's case. And remember, Brad Weber's gun was not excluded. Isn't that something? An identical gun to Richard Allen's? He says the state just wants the jury to believe Oberg and ignore the state not bringing up photos. Use your common sense. He mentions Libby's phone being plugged into an accessory was not brought up by the state. He shows the jury a phone timeline. You should question their credibility, Razi says, referring to the prosecution. He says the state was desperate to make an arrest. Yeah, I mean, M. Lowe, he lives across the creek from the crime scene. He lives at the dead end of the bridge. Come on. All right. He tells the jury that Brad Weber van detail was only recently added at the last minute. Yeah. He says it took 7 years for the hair and DNA testing. He says that Allen's Google searches have no proof that Allen actually made the searches. That's true. Searches are only registered to his email, which means the account. Okay, Razi says the Google search information was forensic examiner Chris Cecil offering the jury fast food. Good one, Razi. Fast food. Google searches. Razi tells the jury that the man who performed the autopsies on the girls, Dr. Roland Kaur, said in a deposition that there may have been more than one murder weapon. One serrated, one straight edge. But now he says it could be a box cutter. He says Core said this after meeting with Nicholas McClelland 3 times. After Richard Allen mentioned a box cutter during his psychosis-induced confessions. Rozzi tells the jury that they should consider that Carbo didn't see anything. She's an unreliable witness. He says the state only has a few key moments in this timeline. 2:13 p.m. is the Bridge Guy video. Point 1. Point 2, 3:56 p.m., Carbo sees man walking. He calls Carbo's testimony worthless. Oh, and we think that's priceless. We think that is priceless, Rozzi. Great job. Great job, Brad Rozzi. Yeah, we think she's worthless too. We think she's worthless, and we will be discussing her. Okay. He says Abby lived 5 to 10 minutes from the scene and could have screamed, but nobody heard any screaming except at 2 a.m. Rozzi said the state ignored that there could have been more than one killer. No, they knew there was more than one killer until they decided to make Richard Allen the scapegoat. Rozzi says the state ignored that there could have been more than one killer, ignored that someone could have accessed the bridge from the south side, and suggests that the crime was labor intensive. He says it's implausible. Rozzi tells the jury Allen went to law enforcement after the murders in 2017 and also cooperated in 2022. He says Allen still cooperated even after he knew he was a suspect. Rozzi says even through the face of lies, Allen stood strong and he survived. He says Allen lived in the community and didn't have a reason to leave because he didn't do it. And remember, in all of these years of being at that CVS or at that Walmart, not one person recognized him as the person that they saw out there that they claim is Bridge Guy. Rozzi brings up forensic examination. Oberg did of the cartridge at the crime scene. He says Oberg's ballistic testing did not show sufficient agreement between cartridge found and cartridges tested. He says the photos from cartridge testing should be the main thing the jury is stressed by because there isn't any agreement. He says Oberg basically told them, you should just believe me. Okay. So let's see if there's any newer updates. So that's what we got as a brief summary from the past hour of defense's closing arguments. Okay. All right, so magic dirt, magic bullet, magic audio, magic video, magic deletions of interviews, magic van, magic perpetrator, magic timeline, blah, 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 blah. Okay? All right, so here's another one. Tammy Kirby, Turbo Time. Gas lighting off the charts. Okay, guys? Troll Farm Mass Media, Nancy Grace and Susan Hendricks called out True Crime Design, Angela Sedlowski and Joe Lewis. Joe threatened to blow up the Abby and Libby ballpark. While Angela has made many disgusting and vile statements about how smiling pictures of Libby and Abby bother her, and she borderline resents the family of Libby. Well, I certainly resent them. These are certainly not the only deranged people in the case by any stretch, says Angie Hopkins, Turbo Time, Tammy Kirby. I'm very grateful that these ladies helped to shine a bright light nationally on what has been going on against the families of Libby and Abby for years now, who've lied for years now. The current campaign against Kelsey being the actual killer involved in setting up the girl's death is beyond repulsive. No, her hair wrapped around that dead girl's finger is the only evidence, the only forensic evidence at that scene. And not only that, we know they've lied and told inconsistent stories from day one and even on the witness stand. I'm proud to have helped contribute to this exposure on these vile people on a national platform by assisting them with research. So she's admitting, so Tammy Kirby here is admitting to assisting Nancy Grace and Susan Hendricks on the hit piece on True Crime Design, Joe Lewis and the other girl. It has taken a community to battle the hatred against the families. Yeah, we hate the families because of the bullshit they've done to the community and the world at large. Like Ellie in the state. Yeah, we hate Ellie in the state in Carroll County because of the shit they've pulled with people in this case. We won't stop, and we were always and have been fighting the good fight. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. We know what you've done. We know what you've done. You've cooperated in sending the troll farm after us on behalf of the family and law enforcement, and we know all about it. It's all documented. It will be dealt with, and so keep doing what you're doing. Nancy Grace is a vile loudmouth and clout chaser who only went there to get as a photo op. All right. Yeah, they're doubling down on the lies. But that's what you're dealing with Troll Farm. Okay. They're all Troll Farm. Sadly, this case will go in the annals of history as JonBenet and Casey Anthony frame. Only Richard Allen will be held responsible for something he did not do. Okay. Questions and Crime. I love you, Prof. Your main channel I watch. Appreciate your views on this. Thank you. Thank you. Questions and Crime. Thank you very much for coming. And that's what we got. So give me a moment. I need to message our guests and tell them we're all ready. So we'll get the ball rolling. Okay, thank you guys so much. This has been fun going through that stuff. Nancy disgraced, yes. Also, the family is mean as hell. It looks like they could, if looks could kill, I'd be dead after the dirty looks from Becky Patty. I was there protesting the lack of justice in Abby's and Libby's case. You'd think Becky would appreciate it. Update. Now the jury or the prosecution has ended their rebuttal. Now the jury has a case. Boom. Wonder if we'll get it before the end of the day. Yeah, Nancy Grace is vile. I mean, Rick will be found guilty because he is. Hopefully the Germans sue you for slander or your other channel name. Oh, you're back. Dude, you can't just stay gone. Let me document you and we'll get you the fuck out of here. Hold on. Mark Jackson. There we go. Gotcha. Boom. Now you're out of here. Let's get you out of here. Oh, you guys are retards, man. You guys are. You're real mad, aren't you? You're real mad? You're real mad that truth be told. All right. All right, so here we go. Give me a moment. Let's see. Okay, hopefully the sound's still going okay. Let's see.
Wayfarer's Black Friday.
Okay, check, check.
Okay, check, check.
Gotcha. Prof, thanks for sharing all your excellent findings and legit coverage on this case. Looking forward to more lives with you uncovering the truth of what really happened. Thank you. Yeah, what is it today that they all want to come in today with the shaming, gaslighting, threats? What is it today? Are they all upset that they have no case? They're not going to get a conviction, and the truth has been exposed. And now we know the whole timeline is fake. Now we know the bridge guy and the Abbey on the bridge. All that's fake, like we've always said. We know the timeline is fake. We know there were lies told by family members. We know that the girls weren't there when Sterrett and the crew searched. What else we know? We know a whole lot more than we knew a month ago. You know, that's what I'm getting at. And I think the trolls are upset about that. Okay, we're good. I had to pin the link here for our guest to come on. And yeah, the trolls are acting up. Oh no, I'll be mentioning that later. That's Drunk Marv. Okay, we'll do a special on Drunk Marv. Drunk Marv, someone who liked to target my children. That's Drunk Marv. Creating a circus outside the courthouse in the trial for justice for Abigail Williams Liberty German, making a mockery of our victims. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mockery of justice for Abby and Libby. At the same time, targeting my children. All right. So if you're in the chat, if you're in the viewing audience, please join the chat so that you can discuss with the amazing people in the chat. It's a great chat. The trolls like to call them idiots because they don't buy the spin. They don't buy the BS narrative. So they are therefore idiots. But we don't think they're idiots. We think they're wonderful, intelligent chat members. And so we welcome them here. And if you're just in the lurker crew, please join the chat. It's really nice in the chat. But so, guys, my guest today is a really amazing person. He's just been an incredible addition to the Twitter verse. Luke Nicholas. If you've been following him, he's providing daily updates several times a day throughout the day on Delphi, and he's been amazing. And I've asked him to come and join me for a discussion today. So let me get him in here, and everyone please welcome him. Make sure I can hear him.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to talk to you.
Hey, Luke, how are you?
I'm good. I'm a little tired. Feeling like we're almost there at the end. Keeping an eye on everything, which is, there's a lot, as you know, there's a lot to digest on like almost an hourly basis. I actually took the last 2 weeks off of my day job to do this, but I don't regret it.
Well, I didn't know that, but you've been doing a great job. You've helped me as I follow your page, so I appreciate the work you've been doing.
Yeah, frankly, there's been the abject failure of the media, the mainstream or lamestream media, whatever you want to call them. It's people like us, you, All Eyes on Delphi, and all of the stuff we've been able to do, and the bits that I chose to do, I think have filled a gap that the media just didn't want to.
Yeah, I really, I think it's especially it's on the judge for really blocking any transparency, and it's just such a shame and a crime that we've been left out here trying to fend for ourselves in whatever way we can to get around that wall that she's put up.
Yeah, there is that. That's obviously true, and that's throttled what can come out of the courtroom. But at the same time, I'm old enough. I'm 39, right? I don't know about you. I'm old enough to remember feeling or taking for granted this concept that the media were the fourth wall with these kind of things. That they're supposed to take not necessarily a moral sense, but an ethical stance when questions like this come up, and they've completely failed in questioning the power of the state for the last 2 years. It's pretty disturbing.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you observe from the local media, but I saw right away that there's very unreliable coverage coming out of the local Indiana media. I was comparing how Fox 59 versus WTHR, how they were presenting headlines and angles on the coverage, and it was a stark contrast. I couldn't believe it.
WTHR has been a terrible. I don't know if you saw that thing the other day with the incorrect pool note that Bob Siegel took. He transcribed Rick Allen's daughter's words the wrong way, and it had such a terrible. I mean, you can imagine if the family saw that, if she saw that, she would have been mortified. So we took, but we held them to account. A few of us used Twitter mainly, and we got in touch with WTHR's parent company, their legal team, pretty much straight away, and that was ironed out. But in that couple of hours before Bob Seagull retracted that and corrected it, the damage was done. There were comments on Reddit. There was stuff on Murder Sheet quoting him, saying that Rick Allen's daughter doesn't love her dad.
Yeah, and I thank you for doing that. I saw you respond very quickly to that, and that was, what's funny, Luke, is that it was like it was it's almost as if it was intentional, I believe, because it's like at the most horrible possible point to get something wrong regarding the molestation and accusations of abuse and molestation against his children or his daughter, to get that particular interchange wrong. And do you love your father? No. It's like it's almost impossible to believe it was an honest mistake.
If you look at the actual note, and there's a scan of the note, I don't want to accuse Bob of anything in particular, but he drew a star next to that line. Almost as if he was trying to highlight to people who would see that note that they should pay attention to it. And I know that he's retracted it, and I hear that he's in a fairly bad way about it. But I mean, tough. He wrote that word. He wrote no when it should have been yes. This is a very binary thing in my view. And you're a teacher. You don't confuse yes with no. And then you don't draw a star next to it to highlight it to somebody else.
No, and it's like I said, it was one of the most important points, because going to character, and it felt like it was character assassination. I don't know. I have no comment. It was disheartening, because when I read it, I thought, there's no way she said that. I just immediately knew, like, why would that be reported right now? And surely enough, it was within a half hour. It seems like within a half hour, it was being argued, and I thought, something's up here. And I do really appreciate, again, to reiterate that the way you responded, I think, was entirely appropriate, perfectly timed, and it probably was part of the reason it was corrected publicly. Because otherwise, what they would have done is not correct it publicly, or at least done so very subtly, without.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The old tricks. But I know firsthand that it was taken seriously by WTHR's legal folks. They got the message, and maybe because they were afraid of the backlash that would grow if they didn't fix it. So I think someone had a very harsh word with him about that. But that's the power of the internet, and that's we all have the power to hold people to account.
Yes, it's a great leveler. I mean, I've taken a great honor in people coming over to use this as a place to discuss and share ideas, because I'm just a guy sitting in his living room. But it's been an amazing ride watching people gather to share, like minds sharing ideas.
And you've been through it as well. I mean, you there's a bunch of us that got it pretty bad in the spring and the summer, but you got it pretty bad, and you know what I'm talking about. And without naming names, and the things that people said about you, I mean, they're similar to what was asked of Alan's daughter. Like there's this weird kind of like reaction to people on our side. Well, I call it our side if you want, but people who are using critical thinking. That's the way I see it. And there's this kind of, I call it the blob. There's this blob of people who use these ridiculous claims to attack people who are just basically applying critical thought to this trial.
Well, yeah, as you know, I make light of it. I call it troll farm to diffuse and find some levity, but there's nothing funny about it. I mean, it's been very horrible, and it makes one wonder, why does it harm you for me to discuss with like-minded people my hypothesis and the criticisms of public officials that I'm seeing? It's that, they are to be held accountable. So where's the problem here?
The tradition is to hold those in power to account, right? I think I've made a few comments in your chats over the months. I think that it's more than just people who are annoyed that we dare question the narrative. I think there's something slightly more strategic and organized about it.
So do
where
I.
That comes from, where exactly that comes from, I don't know, but I think it's got resource and I think it's got planning.
Well, I'm glad to hear that we're on the same page. It's that's what it looks like to me, or feels like. Well, can I ask, what are your? I know that I've been doing a stream, and maybe you're more up to date on the closing arguments. Do you have any take on the closing arguments you'd like to talk about? Because I'm very interested. I pretty much missed everything.
Okay, so looking at the notes that I've seen, Rossi's closing arguments seem to be a repeat of what he's said throughout the trial, which is kind of what trial lawyers do. The aim is to, on the trial days themselves, with the testimony, you kind of start to weave this story in a thread, and then the aim is that at the end, it's like a funnel. The funnel comes to a kind of head, and in your closing arguments, you just repeat the most powerful points from the other days, and it sounds like Rossi did that. Nick McClelland, on the other hand, was just kind of sneaky. He snuck in some things that perhaps he shouldn't have. He played the phone call between Rick Allen and Kathy Allen, where Rick makes one of the supposed confessions. He played that out loud, which hadn't been played in front of the jury prior to that. So I felt that was sneaky. So, I mean, to sum it up, it's the same old Nick, and it's Rossi being professional. That's the way I see it. There was another thing that Nick did that I felt was a benefit to the defense. I just need to look through my notes. Let's keep talking about something else, and I'll come back to that.
Okay, well, maybe I'll visit your page. Let me see. Because I am totally, we've been on the stream while Nick presented his closing argument, so we're completely in the dark here. Let's see. You are so you're saying so let's go back. I'll go back over Rossi, what you're posted about Rossi. You say he hit the timeline, yes. The ballistics. False confessions, the validity of the Google searches, and the Libby phone data, including the plugging in and unplugging of the accessory jack, and the basic poor job of the investigation, including the bridge guy, height comparison or the murder weapon anomalies. Okay.
Yeah, which is stuff that this wouldn't be surprising to the jury to hear because they've already heard it.
And Sarah Carbo being questionable, which is absolutely. I'm looking for anything on McClellan now.
I don't think I posted anything on that.
Okay.
But the notes that I've got say that he presented a timeline of the day of the murders, emphasizing the girl's arrival and the search efforts. He again highlighted the bridge guy video as being crucial evidence, despite the fact that there are all of these flaws in it. He tried to remind the jury of witness testimony, placing what he thinks is Cullen's car nearby, matching clothing. He brought up some new Google searches that we haven't heard before. So he said that Cullen Googled in April 2022. He Googled Delphi news, and then on the same day Googled "Should I die now?" And he's presenting this as evidence of a man guilty of murder. And I think it's
a guy that has ongoing depressive disorder. Right.
Exactly.
It's absolutely no relevancy whatsoever.
Exactly. Then he brought up the confessions, which, I mean, just yesterday alone, the confessions, that doctor confirmed that Alan was in psychosis. So why, as a prosecutor, you'd want to bring that up again? I have no idea. He said they were not coerced confessions. He said that in those confessions there were details only the killer would know, which we know is not true. He brought up Brad Weber as a corroborating witness to Alan's confessions because of the van. And then he brought up Brian Harshman's stupid theory that the voice is the same voice as the video.
And I honestly, Luke, I don't even understand how that's allowed, because that seems like that's his opinion, but he's not an expert in human voice analysis, or like that boggles the mind for me that you can allow an ISP officer just to throw his opinion around recklessly like that. Yeah,
like he hasn't even, as far as I know, he's not like the ISP's voice guy or anything. You know, he doesn't have any specific training on it. So I don't even think he reaches that low bar that Indiana has for what can be considered a casual expert. He just happened to listen to it 700 times. But you know, if you go and take any audio and listen to it 700 times, you're probably gonna see and hear all sorts of stuff, you know. So I think this is going well for the defense, and I know I'm biased, but I reach that bias from a place of logic.
Well, yeah, me too. I find that to be the case. A lot of us have reached this perspective from the place of love, of logic, critical thinking, skepticism. A lot of good qualities. Questioning what we're told, what's wrong with that? We're just not repeating what we're told. And it sounds like from what you said, McClellan has basically doubled down on the flimsy case that he has already presented, so it's nothing new. It's still flimsy. It doesn't sound like it changes anything. Now, what was your opinion? And I feel like I'll already know the answer to this, but what was your opinion on the defense presentation overall up to the point that they rested.
I haven't heard of a single reported incident like failure on their part, what you might call an own goal, in soccer or whatever. That I haven't heard anything like that. Obviously, Andrew Baldwin and Brad Rosie, they're public defenders, So I was a lawyer once too, not a criminal, but you just know that people who do public defense every single day, they're like the athletes of the legal world. They have to perform all the time at a very high level, in very restricted circumstances. So they're good. They tend to be quite good. If I were facing a criminal charge, I'd rather, frankly, have someone like that than a private attorney who, isn't as well tested. So it sounds like they did a good job.
I'd agree that they did. So my next question for you is, what did you think about the decision to rest the case at this point? What's your feeling about that?
I think it was probably I think it was genius, actually. A few different things. So one issue that people might not have thought about a lot is the timing element. So today's Thursday. They rested yesterday. Deliberations. Phoenix just said in the chat, the jury have started deliberating. This means that if they finish in the next 24 hours, they get to go home and be with their families on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
If the defense had rested today or tomorrow, there's this mountain of yet another weekend stuck in a hotel, stuck in sequestration. So that's this kind of like small psychological element of it, which I don't know if they thought about that, but I like that angle. There's also the fact that they only, I think they took 5 days in total, compared to I think 7 or 8 days for the prosecution, if I'm not wrong. I think that shows confidence, which I think the jury will have noticed. They didn't labor their point, and it's in law. It's a really important thing to not say more than you need to say, and I think that's where Nick has come unstuck, because he's taken every opportunity to just keep adding more to his case, and most of the time it's just backfired on him. What did you think?
Well, it's funny that you bring those points up, because I sort of have two sides of my thought. My first reaction was I was really sort of blindsided, and I got a little upset and confused, and I thought, I know they have more. Okay, so I'm very confident. I've been really fortunate to speak with people who would know, and so I had a pretty good idea of the weight of the evidence and witnesses that they had at their disposal and ready to go. And so I have been anticipating that rolling out over a lengthy defense presentation. And so I was selfishly looking towards that so that I would have more disclosure from these witnesses and from the evidence to go into the actual killers of Abby and Libby and the actual situation. So I was really hungry for that, and sort of anticipating it. So I was a little blindsided by it, because my first thought was in that selfish way. I was thinking, no, I want more. But I thought about it a moment, and some of the points you mentioned started to sort of glimmer in my mind's eye. I thought, well, here's what I can see. If they're confident at this point in time, so my first, to preface it, I thought, like an artist, and I thought, well, I'm an artist, I'm a musician, and I know how when you're in the modality of creating art and you're at its peak, there's a magic to it. So the timing it has to be impeccable, and if you do things impeccably using your entire wholeness as your sensory mechanism, and when to do things and when to sprinkle this music and this chord and this note and this feeling. As an artist, you can sculpt an outcome that's greater than you could have imagined prior. And I started to think about Baldwin in that way, and Razi. I thought, well, clearly they're gifted attorneys, and maybe the gift, the skill and the gift and the artistry that that they embody, maybe they felt because of certain circumstances that the jury is at this point where they can creatively just rest the case and allow the jury at this particular juncture to do something that might be more effective than belaboring the point and sort of exploiting the jury and the witnesses for another week or two, just to pound all of that in. And it may come to a point where the jury gets fatigued and resentful, and maybe the effectiveness or the pregnancy of the moment is lost. And it was funny because I called Rick Snape and I was real upset, and I asked Rick what he thought, and he said, Prof, I think that when that juror stood up and said, please let him finish, that Baldwin probably, it occurred to him in his gut that now is the time. Like, the jury's at a place of frustration, there's emotional tension, and there's all of those ingredients, that now is probably the perfect moment to just say, okay, we trust you. And so I think that's where I am now, that, I've kind of come around to thinking these attorneys have experience. They're powerful, experienced attorneys, artists, for lack of a better term, and I'm not. So I trust that they felt it was the right thing to do, and we will not stop in this justice for Abby and Libby. So that's also a thing I'm okay with.
Yeah, I like the analogy with artistry, and I think actually a lot of courtroom attorneys would agree with you with that analogy, because in a way it's a theater. You're on stage and you're using the art of rhetoric, along with obviously the analytical side of it, and you're weaving a story in front of these jurors' eyes. So there is artistry to it. I think this time around Nick wasn't a very good artist. Then there's the frustration you mentioned. You're not the only one. Quite a few people have said that, and I think that comes from a place of just wanting to know what the hell happened. I think obviously we have to separate that from an effective defense for Rick Allen, but I do think this defense has contributed something to the bigger picture, which is the story of the phone. The fact that the phone was handled later that day, that's something none of us saw coming, and it's a piece of information that like people like us and others who've been looking at this for years, long before Allen came along, that's a piece of information that is incredibly useful. So they have made a contribution, and they can't really solve the whole case for us as much as we'd like them to.
Yeah, well, that's what I was naively hoping for, that they would be. Yeah. But no, you're right. I mean, so I don't know if many people know, but you've maintained a website for some years, that's it's really loaded with good information. Now it's a bit hard to access because it goes down in a timeline.
Yeah.
But no, for years you've been collecting this information, and I have in my own way. Privately, I just have a collection of information, and the thing
I've been,
I was oh, go ahead.
no, finish it. You should finish your point.
Okay,
Sorry. I have an interruption problem.
I was saying that yesterday. I was saying to someone on the show here, I forget, but I was saying that. Oh, the interesting thing. I was speaking with Scout. That's who it was. We had a visitor named Scout, and I was explaining to her how many of us have come to the same place at this point in time without having followed each other's path. For instance, independently, I came from a certain angle in which I landed to where I am now with this multiple perpetrator meth involved theory with a different timeline and the staged or fake digital evidence. I know you've come from a different angle. I know that other creators who I highly respect, they've come from different angles. So we've all sort of come from these different angles and centered in on a sort of a general consensus of what this is. And I think that's very interesting because it lends credence to the fact that it's accurate, that none of it involves a lone wolf perpetrator trying to abduct the girls off the bridge for sexual gratification. At least the people who I feel are closer to it.
Yeah, I haven't heard too much in that theory that holds weight. I think, yeah, it's kind of like a process of peer review, if you like, in a very real sense. Personally, I have followed this case from the very beginning. I used to be a bit of an addict to websleuths.com a long time ago. And I generally follow missing persons cases and unidentified deceased cases. And I remember when this happened, on the day it happened, when they were still missing people, and then there was a few months of chatter and it kind of went quiet. As you know, these long quiet periods when nothing happens, and then it pops up again, and then it goes away again. And then the Rick Allen arrest happened, and it was like, this is meant to be the big thing, and that's when I really started to engage properly, because the second the PCA was unsealed, I felt it was rubbish. They had the wrong guy. There was nothing there really that was compelling to me. But that's just my angle. Other people have come from it from lots and lots of different angles, as you say. And there is this, I don't know what we'd call it, like community or a loose grouping of people who have different ideas. There's still different theories, but the thing that we all share is a massive skepticism about how the state has interpreted things.
Good point, and I think that's a rallying point, or has been for a lot of us. Is it's from the beginning, the arrest of Richard Allen seems premature, the PCA being extremely questionable, and over time, all of that has increased. None of it has been resolved. It's been a constant increase of questions and suspicions, and then what I would term is something sort of a I don't know, like a malignant, I don't know, narcissism or I don't know, just legal malpractice. With the exclusion of the third party perpetrators, the exclusion of geofencing, um, the amount of missing interviews and evidence over time. There's been so many questions arise, and as much as you want to give the benefit of the doubt to the prosecutor and the investigators, it's been mounting up and mounting. And I think a lot of us who have kind of come to this rallying point, it's the frustration that how can it be so obvious, or so many points of contention with these people, and it still continue and still carry forward, and there still be a contingent of people pushing that angle. So just before you came in, we had several of people come in with name calling, gaslighting, and all of that, and I just wonder, like, if you ever put yourself in the shoes as a target of this, like, what if it was you who they were manufacturing witness statements and twisting and making things fit and omitting facts just to get you to be targeted for an arrest or an imprisonment. So
Yeah, it's that, I mean, unfortunately, that has been the rallying cry. You know, we've seen the flimsiness of this entire thing lead up to a man who is, in my view, innocent, be treated so terribly, and that has brought in new voices and new eyes, and new energy, and that's a net gain. Yes, it's at the expense of Rick Allen, however, and he has to live with that. In terms of the malpractice and the malignant narcissism, this is something I struggle with. I struggle to figure this out because I think it's a playing field. I don't know if you are into game theory and that kind of thing, but it's a playing field with different players, each with their own personal agenda. Sometimes agendas overlap, and agendas change over time, and incentives. The incentives might not be visible to all the same players at the same time. So when I try and think, who is doing this? You know, whose agenda is being served by suppressing conversation and interest in this? I kind of go around in circles a little bit, because it's easy to just say, well, Judge Gull is evil, or whatever you want to say, and she has made some very serious mistakes. But then you have to ask yourself the question: well, what agenda is she playing into? And then, you have to do the same with McClelland, and you have to do the same with ISP, and you have to do the same with the people, the relatives of certain people, and then then you go down a level and you look at the online the trolls, and you think, well, how do they have the time and the ability to dedicate their lives to this kind of suppression? Somebody must be paying for them to do that.
well, and I speak often with my friends, and I say, for what? Over the murders of two little girls. Two little girls.
Yeah. So maybe we'll never know, but there are definitely, I mean, there are two very big, I would say, agendas. One is the state of Indiana, and one is the prison industrial complex, if you want to call it that. Those two in particular have a lot to lose here. So that's where I'm thinking at the moment, but I don't know.
Adrian asks, do you think this case will go on to affect future cases?
I hope so. because there's an opportunity for a reset. I mean, obviously, Alan hasn't been acquitted yet. I'm hoping we get that news in the next few hours. But let's assume he is. Then there's an opportunity for a reset, right? A lot of people are going to be very seriously embarrassed, and maybe some heads will roll in the ISP and other places, and that might mean they bring the FBI back in and they conduct a proper investigation, and maybe they get somewhere, you know. Maybe this new information about the phone creates new avenues to look at. But then, on the other hand, some other poor guy might just be strung up for this, you know.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't want that to happen. It doesn't serve justice for Abby and Libby at all. If Alan's acquitted and then someone else is put in the frame. So it depends. That's the answer to Adrian. It depends on what the ISP does effectively. I think they're going to have to clean house in a big way. And I don't know if they've got I don't know if they're going to do that.
I would hope they would, but I don't have much faith in Indiana at this point. But you know what I am optimistic about, what I think is, so if you consider where we were before this and where we are now there's a lot of clarity. Oh, Adrian says thank you, and thank you, Adrian. There's a lot of clarity. For instance, we now know so much more about this bridge guy video. For years, we stared at this face of this individual, thinking that if you would squint just right, or if you catch the right frame, you may be able to make out some detail into who the person was. And then we were listening to the voice, thinking it was associated with the individual. And I just feel, I honestly, I have this resentment with ISP at this point over it, because I think for years I stared and I listened and I thought about it, and I looked at other faces in the community. And now I'm at the juncture where I give it zero, I mean, maybe 5% consideration once I think of how altered both the audio and video were, how there's a high likelihood that entire face is a construction. And that the voice is not associated with the face. And so as I look at that evidence, I start to think what attracted me to this case in the first place was that bridge guy video. And now to consider that it's basically a nothing. I think, we can hit the reset, like you say, and look at it through a different lens, where we're not considering that, or we're not giving much weight to that bridge guy anymore, not giving much weight to Abby being on the bridge. And then also considering how the attention that the trial has gained means that thousands of new eyes and new people are coming into this case, some of who will be very good people. And so suddenly we're injected with like this clarity on one hand, but also this whole contingent of people coming into the case at the same time on the other hand. So maybe it's somewhat of a renaissance in the case, where we're here at a precipice where we can jump off into flight, a whole new phase of this, where we're a lot more clarity, but also a larger community to sort of work with. And
yeah,
as a citizen, I've been demanding federal grand juries. I'm at the point where I believe we should be applying pressure to our local officials, all independently, saying we need grand juries on all of the suspicious things around this case. And so I'm looking at it as a really good point for the future.
Yeah, like Bridge Guy might not be involved in this murder at all, as far as we know, which is shocking. That's one of the most surprising developments in the last 3 weeks. He might just be a side character who's been injected into the story. I don't discount it, but then, so if the new people that come in are going to face the same, I mean, I want to show you optimism, and I do, but I also feel like the new people that come in, if that engage with this in a real way, they're going to face the same machine that we've faced. That's going to try and scare them off, or or disincentivize them, or So it's going to require something on a law enforcement level somewhere.
Yeah, they're going to have the same amount. It's another point we haven't talked about, but I'm of the belief now that there's been a large amount of disinformation injected into the case intentionally to confuse, to muddy the waters, to distract. And so any newcomers, they have that obstacle as well, that they're coming into the case. They're still facing that mountain of disinformation and all the complexities and trying to figure out, what is relevant, what's not, and then navigating the social media voices. And it's certainly a challenge, but I think it's a good opportunity to sort of push, to turn a new leaf, and also at the same time point towards accountability and to say, listen, something has to happen here. Something has to happen. And I don't know how it's done, because I don't know how to get the attention of, federal grand juries. But I think that the more noise is made, it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So
You're right. Maybe there's change on the way. Like Carter, if I remember correctly, he said he would retire. He paused his retirement a few years back and said he'd wait for this trial. So maybe we see him go now. Maybe we see him leave. And
very true.
You've just got a new governor. I know a lot of people don't like him, and I don't really. I'm not interested in the politics. Maybe there's going to be some change at the top. Maybe ISP have to consider that Holman has really made them look bad, and it only takes a few people to change, in senior positions in that organization to make a real difference. But actually, and connected to that, a comment you highlighted a minute ago from Canadian was a really good question, actually, and I'd forgotten about that recently, which is that Carter said several times in press conferences that he feared for the lives of his people related to this case.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
And he never explained. So why was he worried about something happening to his men getting the call in the middle of the night? I remember that clearly now. He never explained why he was afraid that something would happen to his guys and women working for him. And if you really focus in on that point that he's saying, and then you put Rick Allen in the picture, are we really supposed to believe that Richard Allen posed some kind of hidden threat to the Indiana State Police? I don't think so.
No, but would a cartel operating under the auspices of law enforcement in the Midwest, targeting children, officials, and other gangs, would they pose a threat to your officers?
Yes, they would. Yeah.
Yes.
And the FBI are already investigating. The FBI have been on that for years. This is why Ferenczi is dead. But further afield outside of Indiana, in the greater Midwest, there's plenty of stuff in the press about how the FBI are working on this, and in particular working on law enforcement infiltration by criminal groups. So yeah, I think that's what Carter. I think Carter was kind of referencing that kind of thing, more than someone like Rick Allen.
Yes, and I strongly believe that Agent Ferenczi and Officer Stephanie Thompson were targeted for sure. Is my personal feeling. That would make sense, and that's two, and you possibly have more, and a lot of that would make sense.
There are more. There's the judge's wife. I can't remember her name. I think it was Stephanie also. Could be very wrong about that, but the judge's wife who died in the house fire. I think that was maybe more Flora adjacent than Delphi.
Oh, Mr. John McCurdy and Anna Downham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, yeah. I'm not in the States now. I mean, I lived in New York for the best part of 12 years. I will be going back. I had to come back this year to do some things in the UK, but I don't envy you living there in Indiana. And but having said that it looks like an incredibly beautiful place. You know, the scenery and the nature, and from what I've heard, a lot of the people are really good people. But I wouldn't want to live in a state where the primary law enforcement agency is the ISP.
No, and let me tell you, I have met the amazing thing about starting a platform like this is that when you wake every morning, you never know what you're going to wake up to and who's going to reach out to you and who's going to message you and all of this. And I've had the most amazing people from Delphi, from the family, and from the locals reach out to me. And I explained to someone recently that it's the reason that I'm so bold to say some of the things that I say is that I absolutely know it's fact. So some of the things I say, I know to be fact. So I'm confident and bold enough to say it. But it's only due to the compassion and the good hearts of those who've reached out, because they're dying to have the story told and the truth told. And there are many who know that there's this culture of silence and of fear in the local community. And sure, you have a large contingent of people doing that, but you also have people who really want the truth and who really want to help us outsiders understand the truth so that we know where things are. And some of the truth is so unpleasant that I won't even say it here. There are things I haven't said here because it's the type of things you wouldn't want to say about people, and you wouldn't want to say about dead children. So there are things that I don't say, but some of them don't have to be said because maybe the reason for them being known is not to be repeated, but to give me that perspective to know, and that fire or the audacity to know where I can press and where to go, and to know what things are dead inroads. And it's just amazing, Luke, because there are a lot of locals who are crying out for help here, really reaching out.
Yeah, I can imagine. I've spoken to like quite a few people from around there as well. People who wouldn't want to go online and say the things you and I say, and for good reason. And there is this. I also connect with the point about dead ends, but those are rabbit holes you kind of have to go down anyway to a certain point until you thrash them out.
Right. That's part of the disinformation is realizing, and it's. I'm telling you, Luke, for as far as my mind works, this has been the most complex thing. I mean, I've done complex things and complex information I've dealt with in my life, but this information surrounding this case is very complex, and there's so much that I had to filter through to sort of get the feeling, is this worthwhile or not? And you never know going into it, because some of it on face value, it looks like it would be outrageous or maybe nothing, but
Yeah. And I've gone through that in the last 24 hours with the phone aux thing. You know, like you naturally want to think, well, that's going to be something relatively uncomplex. Maybe someone plugged some earphones in to stop the phone ringing, but then actually you start to break it down, and you can go off in a dozen different directions. So we've got that to look forward to for the next few years.
oh yeah.
Maybe tech can help us. You know, like this is my day job at the moment is a combination of law and AI. So I create AI for law firms. So that's kind of complex in a way, because you're dealing with huge amounts of information that has to be processed in a certain way. But I think those kind of tools that didn't exist 5 years ago might be useful if somebody can figure out a way to put them together. There's probably a lot of information in maybe a couple of dozen of us who've got huge amounts of information sitting in text files and written down in notes. If we could somehow bring it together, that would probably be a good idea.
Yes, I agree. This is it's a lot, and you know what else is very interesting to me, how a lot of people have done a lot of work in different capacities, but something has been extremely interesting to me that I had never considered would be a part of something like this before, is the network analysis. Or by that I mean the human network analysis and the social media network analysis. There's a handful of people who have independently done a lot of that, and it's also interesting. But what's also interesting is like it doesn't necessarily give you a solution. You know, it gives you sort of a matrix, or I don't know. It gives you a structure where you can see this web, but that's not really the answer. But you know that somewhere in that web are answers.
The way I see that idea is it increases the resolution. If you consider that picture, then once you go through that a couple of analytical steps, it's almost like the resolution of the picture increases. So some things become more clear. You get to see some of the edges better of what you're looking at, but you still have to do the work.
Yeah,
you still have to then use that.
Great analogy. That's perfect. That makes sense. Look, Canadian Nana says about Doug Carter saying that he had a piece of wood from the scene that he'd hold on until the case is solved. I do remember that. Maybe that piece of wood might have DNA. I doubt he'd taken something if it wasn't, or if it was important. Yeah, but what's incredible, I mean, just the idea that crime scene technicians of the state police would not gather sticks with blood on them at the crime scene. It's unimaginable. When does it happen?
Yeah. Then you have to ask, is that incompetence, or is that malice, or is it both? Very strange.
Well, at this point, you know what I foresee is that, in my opinion, it's malice all throughout, corruption. But what I foresee is that they're going to try to use the incompetence as a cover or an escape route for the malice. And they're going to say there was no corruption. This was all incompetency. So maybe some heads will roll, and the heads will be to make it go away with the assumption that it's all incompetency. But I'm conspiratorial minded anyway. In my opinion, it's malice, and it should be addressed. That's why I'm asking people, put pressure for federal grand juries. We need grand juries on every person who's done things that don't sit right on this case. We need to demand, and maybe some will be delivered. But I don't see how anyone could look at this and not say that there's at least some malice.
Well, malice takes advantage of incompetence, if you see what I mean. So there could be malicious actors who take advantage of incompetent actors to achieve what they want to achieve. This Wood thing is interesting, and it reminds me of a thought I had the other day, which is that I feel like there is evidence that the state has held back in this trial strategically. I've got no proof of that, but I feel like they would have held some things back in case it doesn't turn out to be Rick Allen, and in case they need to use that evidence in future to corroborate, maybe a confession or something like that.
I would say only that which would not fit Rick Allen, because I truly believe anything they had which they could have twisted to fit Rick Allen, they would have. But correct, there could be evidence that could not fit Rick Allen, so they left it out and withheld it to use. I mean, there must be more evidence, and just imagine the number of tips that possibly hold a lot of worth and value. Like, there could be tips sitting there that blow it wide open, thoroughly lay out the case, and you just don't know.
Yeah, and it could be as simple as maybe the new information about the phone makes some of those tips stand out more. So when they go back and review this next week after this is finished, maybe they will look more closely at a subset of tips because of that new information. You're right.
Well, something that just occurred to me the past 24 hours, I find highly interesting, and I hadn't noticed it before, but it's that at 5:44 p.m. is the time that the phone allegedly stops pinging.
Yep.
Which we were assuming meant battery died. But there could be other explanations, obviously. But I guess I'm sticking with a timeline, points in a timeline. So 5:44 p.m., phone stops pinging. 5:45 p.m., plug in of some sort of cable into the auxiliary jack. 5:49 p.m., third phone leaves the crime scene. In the geofencing. So that's 5:44, 5:45, and then 5:49, a phone is out of there. There has to be something happening that we have never looked at 5:44, 5:45, 5:47, 5:48, 5:49. There. So what is that? Who's that phone belong to in the geofencing? Because that would probably explain someone involved in this.
And the police already know who that is. I'm sure they do. Or at least maybe they don't. Maybe they don't know who it is, but I'm sure they've got the kind of the IMEI numbers of that phone that left at 5:49. I'm pretty sure the Marshal Service did some work on this a few years back when they were using Stingray technology to look for. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but basically the marshals have this. The U.S. Marshal Service have this technology where they fly a kind of a cell tower in a plane over a large area, And what that allows them to do, and the way they use that in their normal line of work, is that if they're looking for somebody, which is basically their normal work, if they're looking for somebody, this fake cell tower that flies around can see if a phone with a matching IMEI number tries to connect to this cell. I know the marshals were doing that on this case at some point. I don't know what came out of it. So maybe they're aware of how to identify this phone, but they don't necessarily know the owner. And then with this new information, they're going to go back and look at that phone a bit more closely. The other thing that timing raises is that if they're saying the girls were abducted at around 2:30 or whatever, that's 3 hours away from the time when the interference with the phone happened. So what happened in that 3-hour period? Because thus far, the state's theory has been that this was all finished and done by 3:30. So clearly that's not the case.
There's a great point there. Yes, great point. So what happens in the course of 3 hours and possibly 3 hours and 15 minutes? 3 hours. How do you explain? And during those 3 hours, a good portion of those 3 hours, you allegedly had family members searching that very area. Remember, family arrived by 4.
Yeah.
So families there at 4 searching till 5:45. I mean,
and they would have been shouting, making a lot of noise. If yeah, I don't know.
That's right, women doing. So an Amber Alert, isn't it like when you have a tornado alert on your phone or something that the phone just goes off loudly?
Yeah.
Yeah, the phone just alarms loudly.
It does, yeah. It does.
Well, if the phone is set to receive the Amber Alerts, that's one of the settings in the iPhones, I know. But great point there, woman doing.
Woman always has good points. One of the theories was that maybe this Amber Alert went off on Libby's phone, and somebody just plugged some earphones in to quiet the phone.
To silence.
Yeah, but that doesn't stand up to the next question, which is then why did it leave the network at the same time?
A minute prior, yes.
Right. Yeah.
Or possibly the same time. I guess maybe if the pings are every 15 minutes, maybe it's a wider window, because if those pings are coming every 15 minutes, the last ping is 5:44. Or is there some indicator in the phone log that shows that the phone went inactive? So I'm wondering what that 5:44 indicator is. Is it the last ping coming that we're getting that point, or is it something in the phone forensics saying that the phone powered off? Or I'm not recalling. I think it's the ping. So if it is the ping, then that gives us sort of a window that could have been anywhere between 5:44 and 5:59. So, but in that range, I would say at 5:45 to 6, there's things happening.
Yeah, there has to be. Yeah. The problem is that what those things could be is quite difficult to answer, and likely it's not going to be something that the majority of people are going to be willing to entertain. It's got, in my personal opinion, is something high tech, something sophisticated.
Rick says in New Zealand, they get presidential alerts for New Zealand tsunami. Now GeoNet notifies earthquakes, etc.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in most parts of the developed world, the civil alert systems are pretty much the same. They're supposed to override your phone settings for a reason, because if there's a nuclear bomb about to go off or an earthquake about to happen, then you need to get that alert. But I haven't heard a lot about this. I mean, I know the rumors of the Amber Alert on that day, but there's not a huge amount of information on it I've seen. I don't know about you.
No, I know that she's correct, and that Amber Alert came through. I would assume it would be logical. So I would think if someone's there near the bodies or near the phone or whatever the case may be, the phone starts going off like insanely loud. The first thought would be, let's put this in the phone and silence it. But then why wait 5 hours to pull it out? There's so many questions, but like you said, to kick it off, it gives us another thing to sort of start picking away at and to pursue. And I think that in combination with disregarding for the most part, you know what I would like to see? I would like all of this evidence presented to the public for, the public has rights to access the evidence. So the real question will be, is Gull going to seal all of that evidence and the public will never be able to see that unedited bridge guy footage so that we can take that raw data and in our current time with current tools and current minds, pick through it and take it apart and maybe see what it is? Or is it all going to be just sealed up with a bow and we'll never get to look at it? But I think that any review of this evidence, we could look at it all anew, and some of it for the first time.
Yeah, I think part of it is going to stay secret because it's operational, as in it's still in law enforcement hands. Probably wasn't even entered into this criminal case. That stuff, I mean, unfortunately, we're not going to see it. I agree with you. It should be in the hands of people who've got time and got tools and are willing to sift through it. Some of it might come out from the trial record, but that still remains to be seen as well, actually, because they're going to fight that.
When they didn't investigate the screaming at 2 a.m., that did it for me. Ellie is involved, plus Mike Patty in the canoe at that very time. That's something upsetting to me. I mean, and to understand that the description from that lady was horror screams. Screams. That's a very particular term. Horror screams are only one type of thing. It's a scream of horror.
Yeah, it's specific. It's specific. And the timing is super interesting because that was when they called off the search.
And it's also when Tobe Lesenby reached out to Sterrett, the fire chief, to say, I need you out here with flashlights or some sort of reason he gave. But the timing of it is just impeccable. It's that the screams occur, the search is called off, the screams occur, and Sterrett is called to come and assist. It's another like nexus of a little module of time that I think we should be focusing on.
Yeah, and I think it will connect with the trail cam that we learned about last week. It feels like a long time ago now, but there've been rumors about the trail cam for years, but it's been confirmed that there was a trail cam and it picked up somebody, I think twice, after midnight, and that was within 100 yards of where the bodies were found. I think that will connect with the 2 a.m. nexus. Screaming
at 2 a.m. I haven't heard before. Yes, there were horror screams at 2 a.m. Police were called, and the response was they're too busy to search or to do anything about it. But at the very moment, police were out there. Tobe Lesenby was out there, and he was summoning Fire Chief Sterrett to come and assist him. And Mike Patty was in a canoe. Okay, what does Luke think about the polls on web sleuths where 80% or more of the people think Richard is guilty and acted alone? I was mind boggled.
Yeah, I think Web Sleuths is it's an interesting platform. I don't use it anymore. I've scraped it. Probably shouldn't say this in public, but I don't really care. I scraped the entire website and fed it into an AI. I generated an AI model on it because I wanted to. I had a little side project where I was trying to connect unidentified deceased people who've been sat in morgues for years who have tattoos with missing people who have tattoos, and try to see if I can use software to try and get some matches. But anyway, that's a side story. The Web Sleuths is a highly controlled, overly moderated platform, so that tends to attract a certain mindset. However, there is some good information there.
Well,
Can
it
be a
sounds
treasure.
exactly like most of the Facebook groups, 90% of which are so highly moderated and controlled, they're absolutely worthless.
Yeah. Because
what are you barking at? Apologize.
Because there has to be some space to go to where you can just riff on ideas, with other people. Even if you say something stupid, it doesn't matter. That's how you kind of get to useful information. So not everywhere can be crazy moderated like Facebook.
Luke, would you please, are you able to type in the chat?
Yep.
Would you care to put your website and your Twitter in the chat for the viewers who are interested in following you?
Yep. Done.
Thank you.
So that's both of them there. Thanks. Delphi cases has daily summaries for I think pretty much every day of the trial, and then going back, it's got some older content on some of the pre-trial stuff. I'm not sure what will happen to that site after this, but let's see.
Yeah, the dog made me jump because it's so quiet in here. Oh, I've got like it's an American Bully XL. It's a 90-pound monster.
Serious dog.
Yeah, and it's a natural instinct that when he barks, you jump because he's got a deep voice.
Yeah.
Ashley says, I follow him on Twitter and had no idea he was English.
Yes, this is a great shock I often get, but such is life.
Okay. Links in other channel. I will post them on the screen when he drops them. Promise you.
Oh, okay. I did. Although, because I put that @ in the Twitter username, it came up as a mention, so I'll just type it again.
Big dog barks are startling. That's what I said. Yeah, it's startling. No matter how many times it's happened, I jump every single time. When it's quiet.
That's an excellent kind of dog to have if some kind of troll from YouTube comes knocking on your door.
Well, you know what? This dog, he alerts me someone could be 100 yards away. He hears everything. It's very impressive. Like when the little old lady a couple houses down the block opens her front door, he hears it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I've put it in the chat. I don't know if...
No, why are you not showing? Maybe, did you put it in the comment section or the live chat?
No, the live. That's weird, because I can see on StreamYard it's not showing up as a comment.
Oh, you know what? Because I don't have you as a moderator, and I have moderators only can post links. That's what it is. So could you type a
I'll send it
hello
to
in the
you.
chat? Oh, sure. You can do any. Yeah, do that. I'll post it.
I'll send it on
There
Twitter.
you go. Okay.
Yeah, done.
Perfect. Let's do this one. Okay, that's that. Okay, everyone, that's Luke's website. Okay, and that's to follow him on Twitter. Let's see here. I'm going to put it on the screen also. Let's see. This is the website. And Twitter.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
It's a riot control Chihuahua.
So I think I'm going to run and check what's going on.
Okay, thank you very much for coming.
No, it was good to talk. And we should stay in touch and, explore some ideas maybe if you want, if it would be useful after this is finished.
Okay, great. Thank you. I will do so. Everyone, please. I'm going to say thank you to Luke. And if you have any questions for Luke, be aware. Those are his links. And also you can message me. I'll message him.
Okay. Well, good luck.
All right.
And I'm sure I'll see you on the YouTube streets later on.
Thank yous and cheers. Yes. And
Yeah.
God bless.
Take care.
All right. Thanks, Luke.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. Now that was very nice. Very nice visit with Luke. Again, it's Curious Luke 93 or delphicase.com. Follow him, a wealth of information. And I have nothing else for you. I want to catch the updates as well. I'm going to do a quick update check before we get out of here. Let's see what we can see. Doing nothing here. We're just obviously the jury is deliberating. We gave you the basics of the closing arguments as expected. Nothing new from McClellan except doubling down on the lack of evidence and on the flimsy case. And it appears that the defense is confident. I was glad to see the points that Razi brought out, especially the admonishing of Sarah Carbo. I think was very important because it's well deserved. Also on trying to get back to this defense. Here we go. Razi pointed out the timeline doesn't work. The ballistics don't work. The confessions are coerced. false confessions. There's 0 digital forensics that implicate Allen, but plenty of digital forensics that exonerate his involvement, especially in the questioning of the timeline and the whereabouts and who was handling the phone of the victims, et cetera, et cetera. And also, you have to ask about the incompetency or questionable actions of law enforcement and some of the witnesses. And I think that he laid all of that out. Now, the question will be, is it enough for those who are new to the case sitting in that jury box? Will it be enough for them? Will they understand that the case is flimsy? Will they be convinced? Remember, the burden being on the state. Let's do, maybe we can, that'd be something to focus on here, the jury instructions and that sort of angle. Let me pull that up for you. All right. Gall says their decision must be beyond a reasonable doubt. She says the burden is on the state to prove that. But she says it is not beyond all possible doubt. Okay. Not all possible doubt, just beyond reasonable doubt. She says that defendants are not convicted on suspicion. She tells the jury their decision must be unanimous, that if they are left with 2 interpretations, they must choose the one that sides with innocence. They can also take into account witness biases. They should believe witnesses until they have a good reason not to, Sarah Carbo. She said nothing said she said during trial should be considered evidence. She said that during deliberations, they must consult with reason, that bailiffs will be outside of the deliberation room, and they cannot leave unless the full group is present. She says there is no mention of sentencing. Okay. Now, she says attorneys need to be within 5 minutes of the courtroom. If jury needs to see evidence, all attorneys will be invited. Allen will be brought in if the jury requests, and they will deliberate from 9 to 4 p.m. daily. Okay. So the question remains, do you feel that beyond a reasonable doubt, the state has presented a case that would compel you that Richard Allen is guilty of the double murders of Libby and Abby? Or after weighing the evidence, when you look at it, considering the fact that if you're teetering between innocence and guilt, you have to err on the side of caution or lean towards innocence. So it sounds to me like there's a very good possibility for each of those jurors to say the burden has not been met. This is my personal feeling, but I think it's also a reasonable assumption. Now, will this jury feel that way? Will they be convinced one way or the other? I don't know. None of us can say that. We're assuming. But I wanted to relay that so that you can understand what was relayed to the jury, what they're going into deliberation understanding or leading with, which is state has the burden. You have to err on the side of caution. Has the state met that burden? All right, what's up, guys? Thank you for all the thank you for coming in. Everyone has come in. Thank you for thanking Luke. Please thank Luke, and I am sure he will be back. I'm sure he'll be back. I appreciate Luke. It's a very stressful day. It's a urgent day, so Luke needs to run off and stay abreast of the situation that's developing. And seriously, everyone, please at least follow him on Twitter, because I'm telling you, I've gotten a lot out of following him on Twitter. And let's see what else we got here. Thank you, Aaron Hicks. Thank you. You appreciate the work? Yes. It seems like he's trying to help. You get what I'm saying? Seems like he's trying to help. McClellan basically they lied. The entire case is a lie. I mean, let's be grateful and honest here. The entire case has been pretty much a lie. We really enjoyed Luke. Yes. Thank you for appreciating it. Okay. Praying hard for the jurors. You guys, well, being nervous won't help. So far, good on the instructions. Yes. Too bad the jury can't see all the evidence, though. That's the infuriating point. Okay. There's a ton of reasonable doubt. Are we allowed to say free Rick? If we can prove who BG is, we can prove who killed Abby and Olivia and Evan. How? I don't get it. I don't think you do. What's up, Amy? Amy's coming in late. Welcome in, Amy, and thanks for posting the Cash App. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, everybody. I'm disappointed for the girls and the guy and the families, but Richard Allen is not the guy, in my opinion. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for saying it that way, because that's exactly how I feel. It's a shame. It's a travesty that the state of Indiana has not provided justice for Abby and Libby, because there's no way that the case presented against Richard Allen is justice for Abby and Libby. It's not. And it's a shame. It's shame. It's a one-word reply here. Shame. Hello, I'm new. I just started following when the trial began. It fell into the rabbit holes. For me, I would vote not guilty. The state hasn't convinced me. Neither has the state convinced me. And I think what I'm seeing here is a large majority of the population has not been convinced by the state's case. And that's all it has to be. We will never know about Richard Allen's involvement or non-involvement or anything about it. But we can certainly determine and decide is, have they presented a compelling case that demonstrates Richard Allen's culpability or guilt? And for me, the answer is no. And I think for a large majority of the population, the answer is no. It's a very flimsy case. All the evidence has been called into question very effectively by the defense, and it really wasn't even there to begin with. Remember when I was saying that on cross-examination, the defense's case was pretty much presented? So everything that the defense has presented subsequently has just been in addition to what was already laid out very well. Yeah, it's a sham. All right, thank you, Cromley. Thank you, Aaron Hicks. So wonderful to hear about the locals. There's been several. There's been more than a handful. It's been amazing. So some really lovely locals who really want justice for Abby and Libby. You're nervous? Don't be nervous. You guys just pray and you guys take care of yourselves. I'm so disappointed for the girls, select family members. I'm disappointed at other family members. Yes, me too, me too, me too. It's a sham. It's a shame. Isn't it funny that sham and shame only differ with the addition of an E? It's a sham and it's a shame. It's a travesty and it's a tragedy. Shame. It is. You've got the likes of Gray Hughes being so narrow-minded that it's him. They won't get justice if they let him go. They screwed up the case from the jump. If I was a juror, I could not with good conscience convict Richard Allen. I couldn't. I think what would do it for me is, okay, some of the things that would do it for me is when the ballistics expert for the defense testified, that would do it for me. When the former FBI trainer testified about something being plugged into the phone and plugged out of the phone, that would do it for me because it breaks the timeline. And I think that Sarah Carbo's testimony would make her testimony totally be disregarded by me. So I'd be stuck with Betsy Blair and Rayleigh Voorhees. And it's apparent that who Rayleigh described and Betsy was not Richard Allen. So those particular points are very compelling to reasonable doubt, you know. This is the weakest case I've ever followed. Liner from Truth and Transparency said that. A few others said the state presented both also. Yeah. Tea is melting right now because some media outlet has said that guess who is in charge of the jury? Fucking Mullen. Open Secrets, I watched a few years ago. Well, that's how you learn about the actual case. And we'll be getting to that after this is all over. We'll be going back into the actual case. I'm traveling with Cromley today. Hello, Prophet Chat. What up, Roger? It's time to Rick to go home to his family, and it's time for them to get the hell out of the Midwest. Yes. And to sue all of these people for millions of dollars. This guy should have never been arrested. Literally, he should have never been arrested, much less prosecuted with these charges. There wasn't even enough to arrest. Okay. Well, yeah, I forgot about that. Not only did they show the mental, and it's another thing, the mental health expert in regards to the confessions, and then you had the videos of him experiencing that horror, and then you had the interrogation videos where he claimed his innocence, he protected his wife, and Jerry Holman abused him. So look at him since the day he's arrested, abused. Think about it. Jerry Holman screamed and yelled at him and called him a child killer. He went into Westville. He was called a child killer. He was abused. He was injected. He was neglected. He nearly died. It's like you took someone who's a whipping post or whipping boy. It's like you took an abused person, made them a monster. You took someone 5'4" and made them 5'10", 5'11". You think that all those jurors, that's going to be missed on those jurors? What's happened to Richard Allen was Clockwork Orange type of shit. Yeah, I'm keeping it real. I love you guys, though. Thanks for being awesome here. Cromley, your letter was gangster. The phone jack headphones thing is what got me. Like, where were the girls in that time frame? The phone didn't dirty and clean itself. Time for the FBI and DOJ to end their sting operation. You have enough to arrest every state actor involved, and you have enough to go and figure out the family members' inconsistent statements and alleged lies and the timeline and all of that. Things got to be happening. Federal grand grand juries now. Correct. They saw where he started. Remember in the interrogations, they saw where he started. They saw where he was at his worst. Covered in feces with a mouthful. Remember, strapped to the wheelchair with the bag over the face, tied hands behind the back, the whole 9 yards. Forcibly injected. The very same time that he's giving these confessions, which include the fact that he shot the girls and sexually assaulted them. Turns out they were not sexually assaulted. Claims that he's sorry for sexually assaulting his daughter, who came and proved that he did not sexually assault her and she still loves him. All of this. You know what I think it ended up looking like? It ended up looking to the jury like the state were a bunch of liars and bullies. Like they were lying, they were a bunch of liars, and they were abusive. I think that's why Baldwin rested. I really do. I think that he felt when he got to the point where that gentleman stood up and said, "Let him finish," he felt, you know what? They know they're liars. They know they're bullies. They know that they are not allowing witnesses to speak, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the defense says, that's it. We'll let them have it now. And so they have it now. The world is watching. And the world will never forget. And let me tell you something else the world will not forget. All of the trolling, the death threats, the going after our kids, the threatening to kill us, posting our homes on the internet, posting our children, posting our parents on the internet, coming in here with 25 trolls as a troll farm in a single live stream. All of that shit, we will never forget. And if you think that I'll ever stop exposing that, you got another thing coming. Should have left my kids alone. Yes. Yes, Aaron. Yes. A juror stood up and yelled that to the prosecution when they were trying to cut off someone on the stand. Because this, remember, what McLean has done has been so immature. The consistent, constantly objecting to every single thing. Objection, 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 objection. And what does Gull do? Sustain, sustain, sustain. Rubber stamped. And you think the jury would not be sensitive to that? It was 2017, not 1917. Where's the DNA, phone data, cameras, car data? So much gaslighting on social media. It's called the troll farm. Photos of his wife walking out of a door with the door still open tells me they knew when she was in there and when she was leaving. Think about it. Well, of course, this is what they do. They have stalked and harassed every single hearing on this case and on the Keegan Klein and every single YouTuber who doesn't shill for the troll farm. They've stalked us, harassed us, police on us, gone after our families. And all of this while he's presumed innocent. How in the hell can this mistreatment happen? Think about it. 13 months in solitary confinement in a max security prison, Westville, as a pre-trial detainee. There's constitutional violations all over this man. Because they're stalkers and harassers. Here's what you got to do. I have 2 live streams in the channel. The Truth About Delphi 1, in which I go through the case, if you're interested in that. The Truth About Delphi 2, in which I go through the gaslighting in the community and the trolling and all the BS. The Truth About Delphi 1 and 2 will tell you everything you need to know about this case. So once it's over, go watch those, 3 hours each or so. Truth About Delphi 1 and 2. They're in the channel. Okay. Indiana needs to make sure they vote Judge Go out of office in 2026 when she runs. She made sure to hide a lot of information. She needs to be arrested. She needs to be disbarred, whatever you call it. Take her off the bench. Every DOC on stand admitted violating DOC policy. Yes, as did Monica Walla. I would definitely catch up on those. Thank you. Truth About Delphi 1 and 2. I would never volunteer information to law enforcement ever after seeing. No, first thing you do, I need an attorney. I need an attorney. I need an attorney. I don't talk to cops. You see a cop, I need an attorney. I don't talk to cops. Sorry. All right. So thank you guys for being here. Listen, we have our support pathways. Buy me a coffee, Cash App, Super Chats, whatever else there is that Amy is posting. There's some merch and there's all of our support pathways. Please support the channel. I would really appreciate it if you support the channel. Also, please hit the like on your way out when we're all done here. Really appreciate that too. And if you're on the replay, please leave a comment down below. The comments down below are the most beautiful part of doing these streams once they load up and they're done, because for the next week or two, the comments will keep coming underneath the video, and I just love them. I love when they come in. I make sure I read and respond to each one as much as possible. There's a lot of good conversations in the comment section. So if you missed the live, please leave a comment. And if you've been lurking, please leave a good night to us. And so I could say goodbye to you on the way out, because we're going to be ending it. But I really do appreciate you all. My chat is where it's at. So I'm always so grateful that people join the chat. So if you're a lurker, next time join the chat. It would be nice. All right. All right, guys. Yeah, exactly. Get an attorney. That's the only thing you ever have to say. I need a lawyer. I'm not talking. Richard Allen was a 100% functional member of society prior to entering the correctional facility as a pretrial detainee. Now I'm not sure if he could hold a job without months of. No, he'll need years of rehab. He needs to move to a whole other locality. He needs therapy, rehab, nutrition. He's in a bad way. It's true, just wild. Info that Mullen was sworn as bailiff to watch jury. Jesus. Thank you, Oldmort. All right. Later, Shippy. All right, so good night, everyone. Follow the case. If something pops, I'll let you guys know. Of course, I love my audience. I love you guys so much. You guys have good hearts. We do this for the right reason. We care about justice for Libby and Abby. We care about justice for Richard Allen. We care about justice for the families. We care about justice for each other. Okay, so I love you. Hug your kids, hug your wife. If you're in Delphi, hide your kids, hide your wife. It's my belief the killers are still out there. We got to do something about it. So we won't stop. He needs serious therapy, and I hope he finds someone trustworthy to help him find his. Yes, God bless him, and good luck in him finding that. 90 minutes away. I wouldn't mind taking a stroll through Delphi. Good night, everyone. Okay, so Sandy D, Shimmerin, Canadian Nana, Connie Beaver, actually Ashley, Roger C, Cromley, Shivy, Sam Sleuton, Old Mort, Jay Cash, Michael Osbrook, Unleash Rainbow, Amy, Lisa, Aaron, Starlight, Selenite, Sam Sleuton, Commentator Roots, Squatchman, Love True Crime, Jay Cash, Sandy D, and Adrian, Kelly, Seabud, Noe, Monday, Woman Doing, Jane from the Country, Aaron Town, Commentator Root, I might have already said your name, Brenda. All right, all you guys who were here super early, apologize if I don't say hello. Just drop your name in the chat. I will say good night. Court of Public Opinion was here. Thanks for the super chat. Win Chill, Jake Brooks, Kim Young, Rebby Lee, Selenite, Wendy, and everyone who's always or anytime supported the channel in any way. Thank you for supporting the channel. Hey, go subscribe or follow Luke. And go check his website out. There's a lot there, even though, like I said, it's hard to navigate. You got to scroll on down. But Luke's got a lot of stuff on that website for years. And he's got a good Twitter. Adrian has a nice channel called In Light, In the Dark. Go subscribe to Adrian. And I have a backup channel, and I have a main channel. So I have two channels. One's the Prof, one's the Prof True Crime. So do all that stuff. And hey, God bless you all. Pray for each other. Stay safe. Oh, there you go. Bjorn. Bjorn. All right, Jane. Rebby Lee. KLL. There you are. Oh, Tina. Yeah, I forgot about you. Tina. Thank you, Tina. Oh, yeah, Kim Young. Forgot about you. Would you sit in an interrogation room twice if you were guilty without asking for an attorney? In my opinion, supposedly he's a mastermind. Good point. Good point. The main squeeze, a backup squeeze. Hide your kids, hide your wife. All right. All right, cheers, guys. I'm out of here. Now we get to wait for a verdict. Pray for it. And don't worry, no matter what happens, we're not done. We're not done talking about this. So God bless. Because they framed in everybody out there. Yep. All right, good night.
you.